great. Lots to do. So let's get started. Let's call this planning board meeting for August 20th to order with a roll call vote. Brian Bernelia,
Present.
John Cortizas,
Present.
Nick Rosettos,
Present.
and Diab Jarius.
Looks like he has no audio. I got the impression.
Almost.
Oh,
Try again, Diab. Try again.
You're muted.
Okay, thank you. I was prevented from unmuting. I'm here. Thank
Great. And I'm Carrie Layton and I'm present as well. So anyone have updates? Nick, you have updates.
The design review committee received or have been working on a draft of design guidelines that I guess will be able to use as a starting point for discussions. And I think they're going to be discussing it on September 4th at a public meeting. So it looks pretty good. I'm looking forward to having them discuss it so we can share it with the group for discussion. But it looked pretty detailed.
I have a couple of questions for you on this. Is how long? So when did you find out about the design guidelines are quite lengthy and they're very detailed, and we had a meeting yesterday, and we reviewed the draft that we have of design guidelines as written by consultant Michael Wang for the underlying zoning for North Main.
Right.
So the design guidelines for 3A are meant to sort of come from those. So you're the liaison for the 3A design guideline writing process with the design review committee. When did they start working on these?
Ellen Spencer kind of gave a brief synopsis of their process.
So Taylor and I had attended a meeting with them. We asked them to participate. They were willing. And then I think she let Taylor know that with the agenda, with the summer schedules, it would be tough to get started before September. So we were expecting that September 4th meeting. We weren't expecting a detailed multi-page.
Yeah, I wasn't either. She said, I mean, she writes that over the summer, she was approached by Morris Sullivan, who offered to work on a draft of the document.
Okay.
And so she says that she accepted the offer with the intention of beginning a discussion of it at the DRC meeting in September. And by then, all DRC members will have read it and they'll plan to discuss it at length at their meeting. And it's a starting point. So there's ample time to amend it as needed.
Okay, so I'm trusting that you didn't know about it before you circulated it yesterday. And I would like clarity. Your email suggested that these are design guidelines that we should have considered by Michael Wang, who is writing the North Main underlying zoning. The design guidelines for 3A only need to be voted on by the planning board as a board. We're not rushing them for town meeting because we don't need town meeting's approval.
Okay.
And so if Maura, whose work we all love, she's a fantastic citizen, she does a great job of kind of keeping us all honest and reviewing. I mean, her work is beautiful. The design guidelines have a ton of detail. If she's watching, if you're in contact with her, I would encourage her to submit them as a list of suggestions for consideration for the North Main guidelines, because that's where we're hoping. And I no sort of promises on which way it goes. Again, the board votes first and then town meeting approves.
Right. Can we do that? I mean, can we have her, or I mean,
we have a public meeting tomorrow where we're going to introduce the where we are in the process. And I think we will get lots of feedbacks. I hope we get lots of feedback. We want to hear from people across town about what they're thinking for North Main, especially folks adjacent to North Main. But we all use it. So I hope we get lots of feedback, and that's why we're trying to get through as much as possible in time to digest it and finalize the warrant by September 22nd. We can't,
Okay.
we can start a discussion on 3A on September 4th. It's really late.
I wasn't aware that they had this much done. I was aware that they were working on something. But I didn't, but it looks like it's,
Can I get a point of order in here real quick?
yeah.
Was that draft circulated to the board? Because I
We
don't seem
literally
to have.
got it. No, it was,
No, it's just,
this is
it
an
was
orphan
just,
set of guidelines we're trying to find an owner for.
right. I'm hoping we can circulate it to the board, but I want to just make sure that we do it, according to the rules.
Well, the rules are that it was a document that was brought up in open meeting, so it has to be circulated.
Yeah,
Can
so
we,
I
can we,
think the
can we,
best
can we
thing-
do that? I mean, now?
I now, I mean, we need to see it. I would encourage it to be submitted as suggestions also as part of the open meeting so that we can assign an author to it and we can figure out the process for it and we can find a way to discuss it. It was sort of dropped out of absolutely nowhere and we're just trying to get context for it and understand sort of what happened.
Okay.
Yeah, my
I mean,
impression,
Taylor, can you just circulate it to the members of the board?
it needs to be made a public document.
I can put it on the planning board website as a part of this meeting's materials. I think that's our best. I think
Okay.
that's the best thing to do.
Okay.
And then we can discuss it because now we've named it. And we're saying the author is Maura Sullivan. Or
Yeah,
is it
that's
the
what,
design review committee?
she approached the design review committee, but I think the author is Maura Sullivan, so it's,
Are there minutes around the discussion that the design review had on this?
those are supposed to happen in September when they
Okay.
formally, I think what we're going to do now is, with Taylor, you had mentioned that what this is called is a citizen submission, and we'll use it as a starting point. And that's all we need for now.
So
But we
I
need to,
would,
I guess we need to get it into the hands of the rest of the board members.
so in terms of the process, I'm with Carrie on this. We had always said that the North Main Street zoning would be the starting point. So I don't know how this works in. Obviously, I think we should look at it, but our process has always been, we start with the North Main Street zoning, and then we use that to create something for 3A.
All right, well, my understanding was that we tasked the design review committee with coming up with a draft, and that's what their understanding
For
was.
3A.
And that's for 3A, and that's what my understanding was as well. To the extent that this is
But 3A was supposed to follow from North Main Street design regs, and we haven't finished those yet.
And this is
So-
why it's a pickle because the discussion that we had yesterday
we had
around
asked them to
design.
do a draft on 3A regardless of North Main. And if they've done it, I mean, we were having trouble getting some drafting going on it. And I think that this is I think we should circulate this first before we come to conclusions.
There was a meeting yesterday, and we did discuss design guidelines for North Main. It would have been helpful to have a context for this before the hours that we spent discussing it.
Okay.
We're not gonna run late for the climate action presentation that we have this evening. So
Okay.
for now, let's make sure it's submitted because it's a document that we've discussed in open meeting now. And
Okay.
let's spend a little time offline figuring out how we do better.
Okay.
Any other updates? So we are excited to have Sustainability Director Ken Pruitt here this evening to present for the Climate Action Advisory Committee on the stretch energy code that's coming to fall town meeting, and I believe Ken is with us. And I'm going to pass this over to him.
I am here. Thank you very much, Carrie, and to the board, thank you for your time tonight. Also joining me, as I think you can see, is Josh Bears. Josh is a member of the Climate Action Advisory Committee. I'm the town's sustainability director. I think I know most of you, and I've spoken with some of you already just one-on-one on this topic. So thank you, John and Diab and Carrie for that, and Taylor. In case you didn't know, I actually share an office with Taylor in Town Hall. And so presumably I can share. Yep, looks like I can. I'm going to pull up a slide deck. I do know we only have 20 minutes total for this conversation, including Q&A. So I'm going to go kind of quickly. Let me put it in presentation mode here. And then hopefully we'll have time for your questions. So we're here to talk about the new construction energy code, which truly is an opportunity for Winchester. Why do we even care about this? It in large part has to do with the fact that we're a green community and we want to become a greener community. So back in 2010, the town adopted a stricter building energy code than the minimum required by the state. By doing so, it meant that we could become a green community. It wasn't the only thing we had to do, but it was one of the biggest things. Since 2010, we've brought in over $1.7 million in green community grants for projects like energy efficiency in town buildings, purchase of electric vehicles, and other projects that have helped make the town more sustainable, but also save money in utility bills. Now we have the opportunity to adopt today's newer version of the stretch code, which we're calling the New Construction Energy Code, because the official name is the Specialized Stretch Energy Code, and that's a terrible name. I'll explain why New Construction Energy Code is a better colloquial name for this. By adopting this new code now, which we hope to do at fall town meeting, it would be the single most important and difficult thing we'd have to do to become a climate leader. That's still within the Green Communities program. Some refer to it as becoming a Green Community 2.0. And by doing so, we would double or even triple the amount of money we can bring in per year in Green Communities grants. Currently bringing in about $100,000 per year, and that would go up to between $200,000 and $300,000 a year, according to my contacts at the Department of Energy Resources that runs the program. So we're hoping to become a climate leader. And if we do so, we open up new grant funding opportunities. So just very quickly here, there's three different building codes that any Massachusetts community could adopt. The base code, the stretch code, which is currently in effect in Winchester, and this proposed new construction energy code. 45 other communities have already adopted it. We'd like to be the 46th. And so this slide includes the most important information about what this code would mean. This code was created by state law in 2021. We first just emphasize this new code, if adopted by the town, would only apply to new construction. That is a new building, not renovations, not additions, not even gut renovations. You would have to be building either a greenfield new home or completely wiping out an existing building and replacing it for this code to have any effect. And what effect would it have? For a new building, whether it's a home or office building or school or what have you, you can build, if you build the building with no fossil fuel use, in other words, all electric, there is no difference in this building code compared to the existing stretch code that's already in effect. The only place it comes into effect is if you want to have fossil fuels in the building, for example, gas or oil heat, a gas range, or gas hot water. And in those cases, you can do that. You can absolutely build with fossil fuels, but you have to do a couple of things. You have to pre-wire the home for future electrification. So, for example, if you are fine with heat pumps as your heating source, but you're a home builder and you think your customers really want their gas ranges for gas cooking, you could do that, but you have to pre-wire for a future homeowner to be able to switch out to an electric range if they want to in the future. The other thing you have to do is put some solar on the roof. There's a formula, and I'll get to that in a moment. But you can still have fossil fuels in the building, but if you do, you have to pre-wire for future electrification of those appliances, and you must have some rooftop solar. The only other significant difference is if you're building a large multifamily building defined as 12,000 square feet or larger, in which case you have to meet what's called the Passive House standard. It's a highly efficient building standard that is becoming more and more popular. It's essentially the default now for affordable housing construction in throughout Massachusetts. The proposed Waterfield development will meet the Passive House standard, and I can talk more about that. We're going to do an entire session on what Passive House is this fall, and we'll invite you to that. But those are essentially the big ticket items. All electric, there's no difference from the current code. If you want fossil fuels, you can have it. You just have to pre-wire for future electrification and have some rooftop solar. And if you're over 12,000 square feet for a multi-unit development, residential, you have to meet the Passive House standard. Now, don't freak out over all the text on this page. Don't even start reading all of it. I'll just point out that the only differences between the existing building code and the proposed new construction energy code is where you see red text. So as you can see on this first row, for a dwelling unit that's up to 4,000 square feet, that's all electric, black text all the way across because there's no changes from the current code. If you want to have mixed fuels, in other words, some fossil fuel use in the building, almost no changes except you have to pre-wire for future electrification, and you have to have solar rooftop solar that meets these minimum quantities. For the larger homes over 4,000 square feet, again, if it's all electric, same as our current code. If it's over 4,000 square feet and has fossil fuels, you have to pre-wire for electrification and have enough rooftop solar that you actually zero out the greenhouse gas impact of fossil fuel use in that home, which is very easy to do if you're talking just, it might be one solar panel for an electric range, for example, more if you want to have, gas heating, for example. And then on the commercial side of things, what I would point to here as being most important, again, would be the multifamily buildings, and they need to meet the, if they're over 12,000 square feet, the Passive House standard. And if you have fossil fuels in the building, that's fine. You just have to meet Passive House and pre-wire for future electrification. No solar required in either case. And we can come back to this slide if you're interested in other building types, but I'm sort of trying to focus on what I think the planning board will be most interested in. Few more slides. In addition to the grant funding possibilities, our town's climate action plan actually calls for adoption of this code. There's a negligible difference in construction cost and actually lower operating cost for new buildings, with the exception of the Passive House standard, which is typically been showing a 1 to 3% higher cost to construct than the base code. 45 other communities have already adopted this. The feedback from those communities that I've spoken with has been overwhelmingly positive. This has essentially been not a problem for builders to accommodate this. And again, this helps unlock future significant funding to the town. And I'm just really going to whip through these. You know, the buildings are our greatest source of greenhouse gas emissions in town. That's why we care about having a stricter building code. Yeah, I mentioned the operating costs. The upfront construction cost and operating are the same or lower, except in the case of Passive House, in which case it's just a modestly higher. These are all the communities that have already adopted this code. The ones in gold are direct abutting neighbors. So we would not certainly be the first community to adopt this, not even in our region. I mentioned the funding already. I'm just going to skip over that, except to say that in the case of schools, if you meet this new code, the MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, will give you an extra 3% towards the construction of your school. The state is really strongly trying to encourage communities to adopt this code. And then I have a bunch of other slides that I can pull up based on questions, but I'm going to pull out of this at this point and actually stop sharing for a moment and see if you have questions. Josh Bears, as I mentioned, from Climate Action, is also on the call and can help answer questions. Happy to discuss and answer your questions.
That's great. Thanks for taking the time to come in. Questions from board members. Brian.
Hi, Ken. Thanks so much. I learned about this summer, meeting from somebody else on the committee, and I think it's interesting. I have a question. You answered the first question, which was that Lynch would already have met these standards. We have two other big building projects coming to a neighborhood near you, one being Waterfield, one being Washington and Swanton. Would those, to the best of your knowledge, already meet this new guideline that you know of?
I can say that Waterfield would, because the developers have already said they're planning to go Passive House. For Washington and Swanton, I can't recall exactly. I remember having a conversation with someone who's involved in that project, and I think he said, well, I don't want to misspeak. I can't remember exactly what he said. Typically, this code is adopted to go into effect at least 6 months after the town meeting vote. The Department of Energy Resources recommends either the July 1st or January 1st. That's at least 6 months after the meeting in question, to allow for some time for the building department to prepare and inform builders. So if this were adopted at fall town meeting, it would go into effect July 1st, 2025. And so for any building permit obtained, or I guess applied for, after July 1st, 2025, if it's multi-unit, 12,000 square feet or larger, they would have to meet Passive House.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken, thanks for the presentation. I have two questions. The first is, do you know what the number of votes, what the percentage of votes needed for this? Is it simple majority? Is it 2/3?
I'm almost completely certain it's a simple majority.
Okay. And I know this isn't probably something you want to hear, but I think Boston just recently had to pull back from something, putting a Passive House for their larger buildings. Do you have any insight as to the arguments that led to that and how they compare to what's going on in Winchester, or is that?
I'm pretty sure that, unless you're thinking of something differently that I hadn't heard of yet, I know there was a splash in the news recently that Mayor Wu had pushed for some measure to be adopted by some like the Boston Redevelopment Authority. I'm trying to remember the exact name of the agency. And
I apologize. I should have brought some more information.
No, it's okay. I remember that particular item. It wasn't about Passive House. It had to do with requiring buildings above a certain size to be net zero by a certain date. And Boston has already actually adopted this code. The code that we're talking about tonight is already in effect in Boston. And they're actually angling to be part of this new state pilot program where they could require new buildings, not just to adopt this code, but to be 100% all electric. No option for fossil fuels, even with pre-wiring and solar. And so, but they missed out on the initially 10 communities could join, and Lexington and Arlington are among those who did join. Boston was too late to get its application in, but they're trying to go significantly further than this code, which is again already in effect in Boston.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
In addition to the funding offset for the slight increase in construction costs, what other opportunities are we looking forward to for Winchester if we have this in place?
I would say one of the biggest things, and I'll turn it over to Josh too, because he probably has his own thoughts on this as well. We'd be, helping to meet the climate action plan, which also helps meet the select board's voted target of an 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. But in addition to that, we see this as, and the state that promulgated this new code sees it as a consumer protection provision, which might sound strange on the surface. So let me just explain, which is that essentially, if you look at where state law is headed, where the science is, where building science is headed, the state is really committed to weaning us off of natural gas and other fossil fuels. So if you build a house today that's dependent on fossil fuels and it's not pre-wired for future electrification, if the gas network shrinks over time, those remaining individuals and entities on gas will have to pay a higher and higher fee to keep the entire gas network up to their property operating. And so there's, a lot of the people at the Department of Energy Resources who've spoken on this topic say there will come a tipping point where people start to really stampede off of having gas installed at their properties because they don't want to be left holding the bag, which is why by requiring pre-wiring for future electrification, you're adding a very small additional cost. It's really just some wire and maybe a electrical panel that's larger at the property. But you're allowing that future property owner to very easily and inexpensively swap out their fossil fuel equipment or appliance for an electric one. And having just done that at my house over this last year, the cost was much higher than I had hoped it would be because I had to significantly retrofit my house. The existing wiring and ductwork was not there. And in this scenario, by adopting this code, it would be there. And so if you, in the future, a homeowner or a building owner could very easily electrify without incurring significant cost and delays. I don't know, Josh, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. I think, when we talked to builders and we were planning to meet with the Chamber of Commerce coming up in September, and have talked with Ben Albiani, the chair, about concerns. And one that always comes up is cost of construction. Is this going to make a bid non-competitive? Of course, it's a level playing field if the town adopts it across all developers. But I think one of the things we've heard is the current code requires wiring for EV vehicles when you build a new construction. So this is just an extension of that to say, not only do you wire for potential future EV, even though they don't necessarily have one to begin with, but you wire for anything that isn't electric to begin with. And we're talking in the thousands of dollars range, not above 5 to 10 grand, depending on the size of the house. So in the grand scheme of the total cost, I think that's why we're seeing this is not a big deal. In terms of other benefits, and I think getting the climate leader funds in could be used for things like offsetting costs that we see we're needing to do at like the Mystic School, the Win Rec building that has an ancient boiler And so, if we can use some additional funding, that would be great for these kinds of projects for aging buildings. And while this particular code is only about new construction, and obviously Winchester has a huge inventory of old buildings, this is really a great way of kind of not making the emissions worse as we build new things. And then we can start to dig into, retrofitting, existing buildings to try to capture more of that 70% that comes from residential. But a great thing about this is it's not just municipal. We adopt it for all, residential and municipal buildings, which is kind of rare for us to be able to do.
Great. Diev, is that a new question?
It is, thanks. Ken, for the houses which are, for the projects which wish to have mixed fuel and require solar offsetting, does it have to be on the roof of the house, or can they take part in sort of a community solar project?
That's an
I don't know
interesting
if we
question.
have one in town, but
We don't have one in town. There, homeowners can definitely subscribe to community solar, and that is built in other communities. Yeah, we don't have any community solar in town. I know that technically you could have your solar ground mounted. Doesn't have to be on your roof. And depending on the property in question, ground mounted could work. We're in fact putting a lot of ground mounted solar at the new Lynch Elementary School, so we're over the parking lot. And I think increasingly we're going to see carports and things like that, or garages that have solar on them. Whether you can meet the solar requirement by enrolling in a community solar program elsewhere in the state, I'm going to say that I don't think so, but I honestly don't know, and I will research that and respond back to the board. It's a good question.
One thing
Yeah, I
we
mean-
have heard is you can do PPA. You don't need to buy it yourself. You can lease it. It would still be mounted in your property, but you don't have to take ownership.
yeah, that has all sorts of other questions that I have, what I talked about with Ken when we met a couple of weeks ago, in terms of having someone else have something on the roof of the house that you might sell, and all of a sudden there's two owners involved in the sale. But the other question I have is, what happens if a house is built which is mixed fuel and the new owner only wants electric? Is there some way of, and they don't want the solar panels for some reason, I don't know what. I mean, at some point, is there an escape hatch where someone can come in and say, I am permanently disabling the, fossil fuel to my house. Can you allow me to escape the other constraints?
Yeah, that's a super interesting question. This is a code for new construction. You apply for a building permit, you say what you're going to do, and then you have to, follow through on that. And the code applies to what you do at the point of construction. I think there is no provision for things being in perpetuity. At that point going forward, you would any further work on the building would adhere to the rest of the code, which is which actually is the existing stretch code that for renovations and additions. And so if you switch over, this is kind of an interesting thing to game out in my mind, and I hope there aren't any nefarious actors who kind of game it out in a way that is counter to the intent. But I think once the building is constructed and there's an occupancy permit, any future work would just need to comply with the current, with the new code, but it's the same as the current stretch code going forward. So theoretically you could remove the rooftop solar. I think it'd be crazy to do so because it's like it's like a money printing press on your roof. but you could certainly pull out your fossil fuel appliances and replace them with electric. That's the whole idea of having the pre-wiring. But yeah, I think the provisions, the requirements in the code really only apply at time of construction. And once you've occupied it, it's the regular stretch code.
Okay, thank you.
It's great. Ken, what's the next step that you need from the planning board? You're coming to town meeting with this as a suggested change to the building code?
Yep. We're working with the select board in hopes that they'll be a co-sponsor of the warrant article. I think, for the primary purpose of this presentation is informational, just to make sure, the planning board, very highly relevant and important board when it comes to the rules around construction in town. So we wanted to, for sure, inform you about this, start a dialogue, answer questions now, answer questions over time. I think, I won't speak for the entire climate action. I'm technically not a voting member. I'm ex officio as the town sustainability director. But, from conversations that were had, I think ideally the planning board would vote to, endorse the code so that, when the town meeting moderator says, well, what does the planning board think about this? You'd say, well, we voted in favor, voted to support it. I think, that would be great. And then if if that is not possible, then that's not possible. But I think that would be the ultimate. And Josh, I don't know if you want to add as an actual voting member of the committee. And it looks like you're muted.
Yeah, here I am. Yes, Ken, I think that ultimately, Rick Eno is our chair, and we would be looking to have support from the planning board, as Ken mentioned, being able to say, we spoke with the planning board, we've addressed concerns that they raised, and they voted to support this measure, would be wonderful. And, if that's something your board is willing to do, we very much would appreciate that.
Right. I want to reassure you that, reaching a high level of sustainability, protections for the town is a goal for myself, and I know it's a goal for other members of the board. I will probably wait to endorse the motion until it's written, but Diab, what do you want to add here?
I just want to add that I have a question. Is this a simple up and down vote on the, there's no additional thing. So I cannot, where I'm getting at is that if you wish to have more than one board come on as a co-sponsor, then that, and I'm not saying the planning board would do so, it's just an option. We've done that in the past, for instance, with the ADU stuff. Once you get more than one board as co-sponsor, it gets very difficult to change the motion, because all of a sudden you have to have two boards vote on it.
Yeah.
So if this motion is simply, if there's no other alternative rather than up or down, so there's no, vague terms which can be added or changed. If it's simply up or down, then I think it's possible, it's much easier for you to get co-sponsors.
Yeah.
But if there's anything which, requires some legalese or some other things, then that gets more difficult. So that's all I wanted to say. I personally would think it would be great if the planning board could be a co-sponsor, but that's my personal opinion. So
That's great. Well, thank you, Diab. And I will say the code itself is either a yes or no. There's no, you can't, sort of say, well, we'll take these parts of the code, not the other ones, or we'll make these parts stronger. You either adopt the code or you don't. Having said that, I've looked at the warrant article language that a number of other communities that have used for this code, and they have the basics in there. We're adopting this code, referenced at, Mass General Law, yada, yada, yada. But in some cases, they've said, in order to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the town, which is consistent with, Weston's 2050 climate plan. So if you start including anything like that, then that's where you'd be at risk. And I don't know, it hasn't been drafted yet. So it's a point well taken. If we do want additional co-sponsors, we have to be very careful about editorializing in the warrant article.
Right. Well, I think you can anticipate support from the board, and I'm really glad you came in ahead of the warrant closing, and we're happy to help any way we can. But anything else from board members?
Yeah, I've just been taking it all in. It sounds really interesting and creative and proactive, and I think I could support it.
Well, thank you so much.
Right.
Yes.
Anything else from anyone, or we're good? Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming in. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having us. We
Thanks
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Thanks, both of you.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So the remainder of our time is available to tackle the next sections of the North Main rezoning. Again, we're trying to get through the nuts and bolts of this process as soon as possible. We have our first public hearing tomorrow evening to start introducing this. Michael Wang will be leading that, our consultant from Form in Place. He will be giving everyone an overview of where we are, and we have materials that are available on the website. I imagine we'll hear a lot more feedback from the public as we have everyone coming back from summer travel and vacation. So we're a little behind on where I hoped we would be, but not as far behind as I feared. So I'm hoping we can get some of the dimensional guidelines hammered out for the remaining districts, which is most of them. I think we have our heads around what's entailed in each of those dimensions. So hopefully it's a little more straightforward. And unless there are objections, I think we start with the building dimensions and the setbacks for the west districts. Anyone?
Are we going to go back to the maps? And
Yeah, I mean, in the Zoom format, it's always a little trickier to sort of coordinate materials. So I encourage you to open
Okay.
whatever's helpful to you. And Taylor's always so good about giving us things to guide the discussion. So I'm going to sort of trust that
great.
he's up for that. And I mean, I guess we can just sort of start. We had sort of discussed maybe Michael would pre-populate a chart. We don't have that, right? We have sort of we sort of left it there, and then we had his this one. But it did not go past East 1 and West 1. So it's up to us
Right.
next leap. So whether we start with stories or height, does anyone have a thought or a starting point?
So by looking at what you just had up, we were done with E1 and West 1, and our mission is to do the same thing for W2, W3, and W4.
Yeah, and if we have thoughts on East 1, on East 2 and 3, we really want to button these up as soon as possible, and we're trying not to meet every week. So
Right.
But
if
these haven't been updated though, right? This looks
yeah,
like
they
it
are a
still
little
has.
outdated. I know they
Okay, good. As long as that's fine, as long
blank.
as we start at that point, I'm fine. I just want to make sure we're not committing that we're happy with East 1 and West 1 as written here.
Yeah, no, not as written here. I know. I ran out of time today.
All good.
The use table I think is fairly updated, but that I think worked well to follow dimensions with uses. So I think we should hold off on that.
Okay.
And we can just sort of remember together what's been adjusted. Does anyone have a starting point they want to think about start with West 2? Let's remind ourselves that West 2 extends from Clark Street up to what's the cross street for the end of West 2? This is where I'm going to try to open too many things. My computer's going to bog down.
The Swan Street intersection.
Okay, so West 2 ends at Swanton Street, and then
Street.
West 3 is Swanton to. So let's maybe just think about that one for now. So essentially Skillings to Swanton, right? No, Clark to Swanton, sorry.
Clark
Yeah.
to Swanton.
Clark to Swanton. Yep. Go ahead.
So so I'm thinking that we would take West One and downsize it a bit as we go north. And we wanted to, at least my impression was that we were looking at, so West One, I believe, went up to 3.5 stories. My memory is really fuzzy on that. So if we could, because we don't have an up-to-date one in that
Yeah,
chart.
hold on. Taylor, do you have an up-to-date, the changes? Let's see, I have scribbles everywhere and I have a long form note about it. And I don't know if we have a clean draft.
I can look. I'll have to stop sharing my screen.
So I would start off with, there's the front setback with the sidewalks. As we go up, the west side lots are shallower.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, would we take that 12 feet and maybe make it narrower to accommodate the fact that you're all of a sudden slicing out a big chunk of that lot? So that's one thing to think about. I would prefer that that in West Two, we bring it down a story. So it would be 2.5. And then it could go to, so it would sort of, the question is it 2.5 with commercial, or is it 3.5 with commercial?
And
And that,
there were notes from the ZRAC about whether commercial would be in every district. So we should also keep in mind whether we're keeping our rule of no residential on the first floor or if we're allowing residential to the first floor. Keep going.
well, pretty much all of the west side is commercial at the moment, or mixed. So in terms of trying to retain as much of existing commercial, I feel like we should probably have the same sort of no commercial without, if you want pure residential, you either go 3A or you go through special permit.
Okay,
Um,
great.
so, but that then leaves the question of is, I don't recall what we tweaked the heights on East One and West One so that they would be, you'd get a better bang for your
No.
buck from, okay. Okay, so West One's at 3.5 story max. I think that's, is that was from the last presentation. Didn't we sort of ad lib some stuff last time?
I think that's there. I think
Yeah,
that's it.
I think this is correct.
Okay,
Yeah, we
so,
this other side of the street shorter. We had started to lower East One and then we decided to set it back and then we were okay.
so West One's at 3.5 story, including with first floor commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And the 3A is, again, we are at 2 stories residential.
Yep.
And I think
For
that goes,
well, we're sort of out of, no, we're still in there. So mod 3 is 3 stories for residential.
mod 3 is 3 stories for residential.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so that means in order to give someone a reason to put commercial there, we're talking 3.5 to 4.
Well, we had
Hmm.
also talked about fudging the open space requirement, which is trickier when you're abutting residential.
Yeah, so the open space was 60% for mod 3.
60% for mod 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. My Zoom is set up so I can't see the whole page. Now I can. Okay. So, again, if we leave it at the same height at 3.5 and kick in, let's say they can go to 50 or 40%, maybe that would be sufficient to
And
to get people.
yeah, especially if we're scooting forward. The 12 feet you're referring to is the sidewalk requirement, which will
Yeah,
the setback requirement. Are the
yeah,
side, at some point the sidewalks get wider there.
yeah, but those lots are tiny. So if you add 12 feet of sidewalk and then we added an extra 15 feet, I believe, for E1 and W1,
Only for E1, I think, not for
Only for
W1.
E1? Did we,
Yeah.
did we leave the 0 from the 12 for W1?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, so, so if we leave the 0 for W2, and we lower the required open space to 40 to 50%, those are probably the only things we can do, I think, because going higher than 3.5 at that point is, I think that's really tall. And I think I would love to see a transition to something shorter. So maybe a three story there,
Mm-hmm.
but that would just match what is in MBTA 3A. So, and if we give less open space, that means they need to find parking.
Right. And that's the trick of this, as we get to the residential sections, if we don't have a space per unit, we're pushing parking onto the side streets, which I think is not a good idea. So this is, I'm looking at them. I can't open we have our little videos, but I can't get the SharePoint open right now.
I mean, W2 is contiguous with W1. All the way up, it continues up on that side. The only thing that really changes in my mind is the neighbors, but there suddenly are neighbors behind them. Whereas in W1, it's the DPW and one house with a neighbor behind it at the very corner. So this is my starting place would be, I'm fine with it mimicking what's in W1 and W2, as long as we carefully look at the rear setback. And that would be for everything. That would be where I think it would distinguish from W1, and would be just looking at them. They might maybe stay the same, but that's what changes in my mind between W1 and W2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but there's also the people living in those side streets can look out and see the tall buildings shadowing. So that's the other thing, is that you have the direct abutters. Even if you give an extra few feet of setback, you're still going to be looking out at some taller buildings.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
And some of these when you get up to like way up north where the Verizon building is, if that ever converts, which probably won't, that's a really deep cut into the side street. So
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's in W3 or 4, maybe. It's got to be
yeah,
maybe
it just,
W4.
I'm not seeing a lot of difference, to be honest, between 2 and 3. They're all, I guess the lots are maybe a little deeper when you get to 3.
Yeah. W3. So W3 breaks at not Canal. It breaks at so for the front setback, I hesitate to get rid of the 12-foot sidewalk requirement, because we're really trying to create that consistent streetscape. I'm wondering if we need to I wonder if we need to measure a few sidewalks and see how burdensome that would be. Like, what is there's already a fairly new building that, the 842 maybe, what's the number on that? It's a, 842 Main, I think.
What is the height of that building called?
What is the what?
Is that considered 3 stories?
Yeah,
Or
it's
is
a
that
3.
piece of, but there's a thing sticking up a 4th story on the top. I just don't know what we call that.
It's 3 stories, and that's a part of your, that's an elevator heading thing. So that
Okay.
counts as part of your,
And
Height, but not the stories.
It doesn't even count as part of your height because you're allowed to have so many feet above the roof line in order to accommodate your,
Your stuff.
your stuff. So I know, I didn't know they had solar panels up there. That's great.
Yeah.
But that is 3 stories. It looks like it has a pretty substantial setback.
Right, that's
Wait,
why
but
I'm wondering from curb to the front of that building, it looks like it's more than 12 feet. Because it looks like
Yeah.
also fairly
That's-
generous sidewalk.
That
Okay, so
would,
that,
I think that's a 15-foot setback
It's a 15-foot setback from the.
from wherever the lot line is to the public space.
And then do we know the sidewalk depth? Yeah, I wouldn't want to bring that too much closer to the street, but how is it for the rear abutters?
well, it is probably does the minimum setback there, 20
Yeah, they
feet.
don't have much parking behind it, it doesn't look like.
No, they have parking underneath the structure. So
Okay.
that whole back, not the whole back half, but the porch part and maybe a little further is actually parking.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it's mirroring essentially its neighbors in terms of its distance from the street. But
Mm-hmm.
10 feet looks decent there.
Mm-hmm. And it's not oppressive to walk by. So it's really about, and that's not, there's no way, that's not 60% open space.
No,
I mean, it's minimal.
well,
How are we defining? Yeah, so,
so this does have commercial on the first floor. I don't
Mhm.
know if it's actually being used. But this is built under our, you can only build 4 units if you put a commercial on the first floor.
Mhm.
So, but if we were to, so if they went into 3A, they'd have to build a smaller building
Yep.
because they would have to meet 60% open space. I don't,
So that could be, they do have,
so I think, I'm just sort of flailing here because I don't know how much extra room you get with an extra 20%, or if you're decreasing the required open space by 40 to 40%. I don't know how much that gives you in terms of what's the lot size. Taylor, this is this is one of the bigger lots actually, because this actually used to be 2 lots, I think, and they joined it.
Hmm.
If my memory serves, but I can't remember.
it's deeper than the neighbors who, the lots much.
Yeah, it's about, let's just use that as I'll do some quick calculations here.
Building
0.23.
size, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so okay. While I'm doing this, if you want to continue something else.
Okay, so, we also have so this building does not have 70% transparency along the front. So there would be some things that would change based on what we have currently required. Do we want to keep 70% transparency all the way up the street? Or do we want things to be a little less sort of,
So that transparency, that only applied to a mixed-use building.
right? I think we're still talking about allowing mixed use here. I mean, 3A covers the residential piece, so I think unless there are, unless, speak up if you disagree with us, but I think we're counting on 3A to cover all residential, and we're trying to get mixed use most of the length of the street. We could. We could allow, what's the word? Is it activating space? How much of it is residential and how much of it is commercial? What's the word for that? We could adjust that so that we possibly have smaller commercial spaces and residential, allow for residential on the ground floor as we get into the residential neighborhoods. Or we could sort of try to really invigorate the streetscape with commercial. This is still pretty close to, this is still, I mean, really, I think people expect this to be commercial on the first floor.
I mean, on that part. The commercial really starts to diminish as you move up Main Street, especially on that side.
We've got the building that we're talking about, then we've got that sort of next door to, that might be residential 848. That's residential. We have two small residential properties. And
The
then
dairy barn there somewhere.
Yeah,
The dairy barn, and then you're at the corner of
Yeah, the tie
the
lines.
water.
So we do have the small residential parcels.
yeah.
But other than that, other than those two, which are very small, shallow lots, so I think they would almost have to be combined to do a mixed use. It looks like they're already at least duplexes.
The small ones are duplexes. And then there are, if you go down further towards, if you go further south,
Mm-hmm.
there are two, you know, those two are duplexes. Keep going. If you go
Little-
by the, yeah, that's a single, I believe. That's
Okay.
a historical one. Those two guys, I think those are, so that is the one on the right, I believe, is the offices, Albiani's offices. And the one on the left, I believe, is a single family, maybe.
I think that's a duplex. The
You think
gray
it's a
house?
duplex? Okay, the gray house, yeah.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Okay, because that got renovated not too long ago.
Right.
Oh, there we go. Two doors. It's a duplex.
Andy
So,
Fowler.
yeah. So I just, you know, to get back to the calculations, that the one we looked at, the 400 or 424, whatever it is, North Main, that's about a 10,000 square foot lot. So under 3A, you would be able to put it to, your building size would have to be 4,000 square feet and you get up to 3 stories. If we relax that to a 50% open area, that gives you an extra 1,000 square feet on 3 stories. So that's an extra 3,000 square feet of building that you can put in, which
And what's
is,
the building size in the, you said the lot? Tell me the numbers again.
the lot is approximately 10,000 square feet.
Yep, okay. In this building.
And I don't know what the current fill factor is for this. I don't know what the open space thing is. But if we're just looking at this as a prototypical lot, under 3A, you can put in, with 60% mandatory open area, you can put in a 4,000 square foot building, or the footprint's 4,000 square feet, and you get 3 stories. So you have a total of approximately 12,000 square feet of stuff you can work with.
But there's an
If you,
FAR of 1, isn't there? So
yeah, but
that
we're getting rid of FARs, I thought.
no, but I meant, but the FAR in 3A would still apply. So as a benefit, they could build bigger than a 1 FAR.
Yes.
Only, but they're capped at 3 stories.
Mm-hmm, right.
So with a 60% open area and a 3-story cap, that, I don't know how that fits in with the FAR, to be honest. But if you were to shrink the open area down to 5,000 to 50%, then you get an extra 3,000 square feet you can add to the project
Mhm.
with 3 stories. So that's 2 units if you have small units.
Sure.
And then carry your idea of putting in only partially commercial on the first floor would still allow, you know, they could get, you know, an extra 4 unit or no, I'm sorry, I can't count, an extra, say, 3 units,
Mm-hmm.
which would, I think, make up for the, oh, I don't know, I'm assuming it would make up for the fact you have to put in that you're putting in commercial. So it would be good to see what Michael's footprints look like on some of these lots.
Chris, are we defining what we call commercial?
With the use table we do, don't we?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just,
anything that isn't permanent residence, how's that?
I'm
What are you
just,
worried about?
I'm wondering, could you have a 150 square foot commercial unit? Just kind of trying to get by.
Like an office that's like sort of a
But-
home office? I mean, it couldn't be a live workspace. It would have to be, and we use the use tables for that, right?
Yeah.
So we're allowing certain things. We're moving office space to the second floor so that it's not sort of just put a coffee mug on a desk and call it a commercial unit. Is that what
Okay.
you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So maybe,
call it
we set a
commercial.
minimum space that has to be commercial.
Or like my thought was to maybe go to a square footage, maybe 400.
Right now, we have it has to be 60% commercial on the ground floor.
Okay.
On the ground floor. Huh?
So,
Well, that's
60
reasonable, sure.
So that
yeah,
helps.
because your footprint's like, let's go by, footprint of buildings. So, with a 50% coverage, your footprint is 5,000 square feet. 60% of that is 3,000 square feet. So that's a pretty decent sized place, 3,000 square feet.
You have to, I think the way it's currently written is you need a parking space for every 200 square feet of commercial.
Oh, I thought it was per 1,000 square feet. Well, I would, yeah,
It's
definitely need to reduce that.
yeah, I mean, you just it's a lot of parking. I mean, to think about it, I mean, if you were to this hypothetical building, that would be a lot of commercial space. 3,000 feet. It would, I'm not even, I can't think of offhand where there are only a few places in Winchester where you have something that large commercial, but
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe we should,
what would be a good number that you feel is representative?
I'm just thinking, we don't want we want it to be sort of a real commercial space, not something to just, get the permit and get going.
Mhm.
And it's, just never going to rent and no one really, it ends up.
I mean, we
Yeah.
could narrow the use table even more for these districts. Like we could specifically include, retail and restaurants and axe everything else on the first floor. Lord knows we need another brunch spot.
Think about it a little. But
Okay.
maybe
I'm
maybe
hesitant.
1,000 or 800 feet minimum or something.
What's that?
Maybe set a minimum.
A minimum square footage for commercial or a minimum?
Square footage for commercial, maybe.
I think the 60% doesn't capture it.
Well,
It's-
if you 60, the building that Diab was discussing, being 3,000 feet on a 5,000 square foot footprint, we're trying to, give them an opportunity to build more residential housing if they include commercial, but that's a
But the
real,
two top floors, is that too much, you're thinking?
I would think that's an intimidating number to try to sell or do anything with in Winchester. I'm not sure how, honestly, the neighborhood might have. But isn't 3,000 feet like a 99 restaurant or something?
Yeah, I just did some quick calculations. 1,000 square feet is approximately 32 feet by 32 feet, which is about the footprint of my house, I believe. So No, it can't be. It's gotta be smaller. Anyway, but that's 1,000 square feet is 32 by 32 feet, which is a good size store, you
Sure.
know?
So it's 60% of the ground floor.
Yeah,
And these
That,
are small.
so
parcels.
that's what we're talking about, 60% of the ground floor.
Right.
I feel more comfortable going with a percentage because you don't, do you know what the overall size of the building is ahead of time? I mean, 60% seems like it would, you know, it's more versatile than saying
yeah,
1,000 square feet.
but if you've got a building which is, you know, has a footprint of 4,000 square feet, which what this building, well, let's say if we go by the 3A, on a 10,000 square foot lot, 3A gives you a 4,000 square foot building. So if we take 60% of that, we're talking about 2,400 square feet.
Oh, we're saying that's too large. You're saying that's too large.
Yeah.
That might be too large because you need to find a business that'll be willing to, I mean, I don't know what rates are. Let's say they're $10 a square foot. So you're talking about, you know, just quite
30,000.
a bit of,
Like a furniture store.
Yeah, maybe set a floor not less than. I know we're trying
Yeah,
to,
so yeah. I mean,
but you know, if you have to, if 60% of the plate has to be commercial, and that's fine on a smaller building. We know, we were focused on trying to create, you know, create a larger building with more units. It's a lot.
But I also think we have to remember the goal that we're trying to activate the streetscape. So I don't think, you know, sort of paring it down to where it's a tiny corner of the building. I think we're looking for property owners that are looking to include commercial. You know, I always
Yeah.
hesitate to sort of flip it around to where it's like, that's too hard to develop. It's sort of like, that's what we're looking for. Maybe this is the right time to ask what uses current property owners have been asking for and whether or not they would fit this model. I mean, are they asking for,
You know, it would fit. It would be a, you know, something like a gym.
yeah, so I mean, I mean, activity spaces, I think that are way under leveraged here, like coding spaces and maker spaces and kid activity space, you know, all of those things. Gyms are apparently don't have a saturation point for Winchester.
gyms require lots of parking unless you're walking to the gym.
Yep.
And there are people are going to be there for a couple hours.
But these small
So
studios do okay. There's a couple of them around the world.
yeah, there's right up the street. I think there's a
Fit Life is right up the street.
yeah,
They're
FitLife.
in the old old Gosselin Law building.
Yeah,
But
that's
you
that's a pretty large building.
But Diab, so I just did the math while I was sitting here. So if we have a 10,000 square foot lot
Mhm.
and the building is 4,000 square foot on, the base is 4,000 square feet.
Mhm.
With an FAR of 1, they can only build under 3A 2.5 stories. 4,000 on the first floor, 4,000 on the second floor, and 2,000 on the half story above to end up with.
Okay.
Anything under your hypothetical of a 10,000 square foot lot with a 4,000 square foot base, anything above 2.5 stories that we would allow is more than would be allowed under 3A. So originally I was thinking in my mind that we'd need 3.5. It's possible because it sounded like you were saying 3 might be your upper limit. That is still more than you'd be allowed under 3A to build, because again, the FAR just keeps on coming in and ending up making your building smaller because it's there.
Unless you I mean, the 4,000 square foot footprint is the maximum footprint you can get. So you can still get to 3.5 stories if you shrink your footprint. So that's kind of,
True.
I see where you're coming from, but there's, you know, if they decide to shrink their footprint, then they can go up. I don't know why they'd want to do that, but but I did another calculation. So a 2,500 square foot commercial is essentially 50 by 50 feet. So that's still a really big shop,
Or two decent
Or
sized
two.
shops,
or two decent sized shops, right?
a taco place and a brunch place, and the whole Layton family is happy. My commitment to town politics revealed. I'm just saying, I don't know if we should make decisions for them. We should make decisions for the town and then invite whoever is willing to sort of like support, the vision. Okay, so we're getting to 60% activated ground floor use. 3 stories feels like it's workable and an advantage over 3A. We'll let the heights be sorted by, let's not spend time worrying about the height of the 3 stories. I think that sort of naturally follows down, and I think that's fine. Do we have a minimum? We have a minimum of 2 stories elsewhere, so I think we can lose the minimums as we go up the street. I don't know who would rebuild and choose 1 story, so 2 seems fine.
I think we should keep 2 everywhere because I
Okay.
think I think the streetscape of 1 stories is not what not what I think we're looking for.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Okay. Max building footprint elsewhere, we have 25,000, 20,000 for residential. I feel like that ended up being,
That seems big for this part of town.
yeah, I think I don't think we'll run into it. Minimum building separation, do we envision parcels where we will have, we have 25
Wait,
feet?
wait, before we skip that, Carrie, I think one of the issues is if there are lots that are being consolidated, you might be able to get to this.
Oh, I see.
So
For
I
the-
think I would be comfortable if we, the residential went down to 10,000 mixed use. I think, these are maximum building footprints.
Yes,
So that is if we have an enormous lot.
right.
Because otherwise you are essentially limited by your setbacks in the open area. And so
Mhm.
what size lot would you require where you actually have to say you can't build more than 25,000?
I don't know if in W2 that could
So
happen.
that's a question, I guess. What are practical minimum footprints?
What's the
and residential is not going to be there at all unless for W2, unless we're saying we want a residential option in W2, which I thought we didn't.
Yeah, I think
I-
we just sort of did the circuit on that and said residential's up to 3A and we're trying to activate the streetscape, so. This is
The
a,
only existing lot that I see here that would accommodate a building that size would be this Verizon building. Nothing else would be able to,
that's West.
just without consolidation, nothing else would be able to reach that. I mean, you could certainly get some, but the lot depths are going to be real challenging to get anywhere close to 20,000. I'm looking here and I can't really find anything that seems, maybe these on between Hemingway and Canal. Maybe if you consolidate these 4, you could get something.
Mhm.
Yeah, but then you've got 20-foot setback to the back.
Yeah, you would
right?
have such a narrow building anyway.
And open
I
area
don't
as well.
think this is really ever going to come into play.
Okay,
So there's the reality of this thing not coming into play, but there is also the optics of putting this in your zoning when people get upset when they see it, even though it can never happen.
yeah,
And so I think that we need to come up with a number which is realistic as to what is possible on those lots and put that into the zoning. Because otherwise people look at that and they'll rightly freak out.
you had suggested 10,000 for residential, is that still, you want to keep that on the table?
I just threw that out there. We could put that in as a placeholder, but I don't know, maybe,
10 so we have 25 for mixed use in East 1 and West 1 and 20,000 for residential, so maybe go down to 20 and 10.
I would suggest we have Michael do the calculations
Yeah,
on
yeah,
these and then come back to us with what he
Okay.
thinks is appropriate.
yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Okay,
But
Good
there's still no
idea.
residential, right? We're still not putting residential in East 1, West 1, or West 2, right? So we don't need
Not
to, we don't even need
100%.
to discuss, we don't need to discuss residential. It shouldn't be in the table at
Right.
all.
okay, fair. Crossing off, again, not updated, I'm sorry, I'm just out of time.
No, I just wanted to make sure we weren't debating something that we don't need to debate.
Fair point. Fair point. Minimum building separations, are we leaving all of that to him? It'll be a smaller issue here because we won't be able, well, actually, no, if parcels are consolidated, we have 25 feet separating buildings in East 1 and West 1. Any reason to change that? I think that seems fine. Is it too?
Wait. You're talking about two buildings on the same lot?
This is minimum building separation, yes, so massing, minimum lot area, minimum building separation, if you have
Okay.
multiple. It would happen only if we if
Yeah.
parcels were consolidated.
Whoever's controlling the screen share, could you flip back to that table we were looking at? Because I'm out of sync. Okay. So okay, minimum building separation 25, yeah, okay.
So 25 feet, I think, was the number we came up with because it accommodates two-way traffic.
That still, in my mind, seems really generous. We have streets in town which are less than 25 feet. And granted, they're old, but you can still drive past each other. I mean, the lanes on your road are only 10 feet across.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, you don't need more than 20 feet to
Well,
get
maybe
through.
it's to allow a little like a buff, like either a walkway or a green space or something, so it's not just two-way traffic.
I see,
The
yeah,
the original reason for the 25 feet was because it's a separation between buildings should be more than just a separation between buildings. It should be a walkway. It should be landscaped. It should have potentially have
okay.
benches. It should be open space. It should be a nice open space, and that's why we did 25 feet on the lower.
It's also
Down
probably important in these
south.
neighborhoods to make sure we don't end up with, I mean, we're trying to sort of spread out as we go up the street. I don't know if we start that in West 2 or if we start that in West 3 or 4, but
So I guess the question is, how many of those lots would accommodate multiple buildings?
well, they'd
I
have
hear
to,
what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, Taylor, and thanks for pointing that out. Do we allow multiple buildings, unconnected buildings on these lots?
I mean, well, it would probably only come up if there was a consolidation of parcels.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
it would be a really if you think about the planning of this, it would have to be on a pretty good sized lot that you had separate buildings. You know, if 25 feet is just an awful lot to give up, kind of, you know, if you think lot line building 25 feet, building then the lot line, you know, you play it out along the street. That's larger than any of the lots we're looking at. They'd have to be consolidated, you know.
Yeah.
This is like a 40,000 per lot, 30,000 per lot.
Do we,
Oh, well, here's here's a place where if we look at one of Michael's test fits, I think it was across from the medical condo building. He actually had two groups of condos separated by a driveway on one lot.
mm-hmm,
So there you would have multiple buildings.
mm-hmm.
And that would, and they are separated by two
The-
driveways.
The
Yeah.
area,
Yeah,
I
that
think,
one right there. Yep, parcel 3. So there you have two buildings separated. Now, and actually it was a walkway between them rather than a driveway.
Mm-hmm.
now that's,
And this is the consolidation of six lots, 5 lots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, this is W1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. So that, I think you could, so just the top two buildings could end up on their own lot. I thought he did one further up where he put those up there, but it doesn't matter. So I have no idea how far apart those two buildings are. Probably around 20 some feet. If those trees on the street are 40 feet apart, or maybe they're only 20 feet apart.
I was looking at the parking spaces.
Oh, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, maybe about 20 feet. It looks, those parking spaces are probably 9 feet wide.
Yeah,
So maybe in that range. I think about, if you had if you wanted to build a pair of duplexes as opposed to just 4 townhouses all tied together, there's some value in being able to separate them, 10 or 15 feet because everyone gets windows. You know,
yep.
as and you could, but they are
Corner,
close.
corner units are always go better than the inside units because you've got lots more windows. So,
Mhm.
so
Oh,
why don't we put it, maybe take it down to 20 feet and say you can't have a road in between there?
But then if they put the parking in the back and we're trying to move the parking to the back. So without the road, how do you get to the parking?
You get there from the side street, which is part of the design guidelines for that. If you're able to get to it from a side street, you should.
But if
I
you're
mean,
not,
we're setting a minimum. I mean, if they wanted it,
yeah, that's fair. That's a minimum.
they could expand it because 20 feet, the way we write it now, 20 feet wouldn't be enough for two-way traffic. I think the numbers are 22 and 24.
So
But it's
we
a
want
minimum.
to, yeah, it's a minimum. So what's a good minimum? 15?
Yeah, maybe 15.
Well, if the numbers are 22 and 24, 20 is a safe minimum because they're gonna have to hit 22 or 24 anyway. So we're not bumping up what's required. We're just setting the floor.
Yeah. So I think 15 feet is for those who don't want to put in a road, but want to put in some sort of pedestrian walk to the back of the property, maybe.
Yeah, but 15 could end up being a reason not to put parking in the back.
How do you get
Uh,
there?
If it's not a corner, if it's two lots consolidated in the middle of a block and they
Yep.
only have a 15-foot minimum building separation, they could say, well, we would put parking in the back, but you're not letting me do wide enough for a car to get through.
But the
Yeah,
15 is minimum. They can
but
always make it wider.
they have to
yeah, exactly.
they have to put the parking in the back
All right.
because
Right?
I,
You can,
I gotta tell you, if you just think about, you're building this thing,
Mm-hmm.
if you could have one driveway in the middle, pay for one driveway, one curb cut, because it's cheaper, and honestly, whatever town you're looking at, they're going to prefer one curb cut to two. That's where you might put your driveway and then have it, Y off in the back. Two driveways, two curb cuts, it doesn't look good.
But practically, you've got cars coming out, you've got traffic backed up on Main Street.
Yeah. Well, the main cars are always going to be entering Main Street, no matter where they're parked on the property.
so I'm a little,
I
I
mean,
don't understand, Carrie, your concern here, because if we just set a minimum of 15 feet,
The minimum is fine. 15 feet is fine. I was just
okay,
thinking, I just don't, it's fine. Let's do it.
if they need
Uh,
more, they'll go for more.
yeah. We have a max uninterrupted facade length of 80 feet, which doesn't seem like it's something that will come up much. Are we happy to leave it at 80 feet for this district?
that is going to be really long. That might cover the entire,
Yeah. I think it's
I
safe.
mean, I think we need to reduce that to 50.
So we got a break in the facade.
Yeah, because otherwise what'll happen is they would have to build from edge to edge of the lot, except for the
It's
setbacks.
a max.
Yeah, it's a maximum uninterrupted facade length, so it would have to be broken up.
Oh, and here I get, yeah, okay. 80 is never, we're never going to hit that. Yeah, if it's a maximum. Okay.
Okay. And then we talked about the transparency requirements. So we make the 70% is still safe because 60% of it has to be commercial anyway, and 10% would be windows for the other portion. So I feel like that's still a safe number.
Just to clarify, we're still only talking about W2 right now, correct?
Yeah, though I don't object to you keeping the other ones in mind. I imagine they'll just get a little quicker as we go here.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's just going to be the height and rear setbacks as we go further up in my mind, but
Yep. Yeah, so
yeah, I mean, W2 has the narrowest lots. So, or I mean, the shallowest lots.
yeah, I think we're ready for setbacks because we agreed to leave 60% for minimum ground floor activating use. The ground floor height I sort of see is up to Michael. And other than that, we have covered the mixed use district building design section. So we're onto the site design section, which is the spicy topic of setbacks.
Yeah, Taylor, can you put that zoning map up again? I'm a little confused by, no, the one that was shaded, and I'm a little confused as to why there are lighter colored reds attached to some of those properties. What does the lighter color red mean?
So this is we're getting into the outdatedness of our zoning map, how some of
Okay.
these zones, when we passed in, what was it, 2018,
Okay.
they just never changed on the zoning map.
Okay. So those
we-
are actually now residential. Okay.
Yeah.
So we should ignore them. So W2 definitely has pretty shallow lots.
Mm-hmm.
W3 has deeper lots for most of them, it looks like.
So I will throw out there that we preserve 12-foot sidewalks. And we're a little less aggressive with the front setback because we will already have a front setback.
Sure.
But
agreed.
I'm really
Yeah.
excited about the
mhm.
consistent 12-foot sidewalk because it gives us the space to do all the things. And for some of these, some of these sidewalks are a decent size. I think we're talking about like a 4-foot setback. But we have to
Yeah.
think about it for the top elevations. Is that okay for 3-story buildings?
One last, well, not a last, but another query of you, Taylor. Could you go back to that, our prototypical 10,000 square foot lot and measure the width of the sidewalk there in Google? You've got 10 feet from the front of the building to the sidewalk. But I don't know if you actually measured out to the side, so that is 17 feet from the curb to the front of the building.
Yeah. So a
21.
Well, it's because it's hard to see here where it starts, but it's
So
probably
that's
20 feet.
It's
It's
probably
probably
20
20
feet.
feet.
So that's like a 6-foot setback from a 12-foot sidewalk.
So maybe we preserve 12-foot sidewalks and we have a 5-foot setback for 3-story buildings.
I think that would work. Although it would be nice to have seen this thing step back a bit, but
Yeah.
it's not horrible.
But in W1, we have no setback. This would be a further setback in W2 than we have in W1, because W1 we have 3.5 stories and just the 12-foot setback, but not a setback from the 12 feet.
No, we do. We have, oh, for the west side.
I'm okay with that because I think that as we get up to the more residential area, we kind of want to make it feel a little less daunting coming out.
Okay, so 12-foot sidewalk, 0 setback.
No, 12-foot sidewalks and a 5-foot setback, because that's what we're seeing right now. And if you look at all the buildings on that side, they essentially have that, at
Okay.
least that.
Wait,
We'll go
Brian,
to
but
the-
you're saying that's not what we wrote for West One.
For West One, we have the 12-foot sidewalk setback, and then it's just, they can build up to that at 3.5 stories. In fact, in East One, they can do the same. It's only when they go to above 3.5 stories that then they have the additional setback.
Right.
But we are thinking about the West One, so scooting them a little further. Well, but the back side.
I'm more concerned about the backside personally, because that's where we now have a whole
Yeah.
neighborhood. So I don't want the backside to suffer, so that we have a broader way in the front.
Yeah.
Understood.
So maybe keep it consistent with West One. A 12-foot.
Well, here's a counterexample, maybe. Going back to that 10,000 square foot lot, they managed to put in a building which meets all of the setbacks with a approximately 5-foot extra setback, right? So the setback in front of this building is what it's 12 plus 5 or 12 plus 6, and they're
Mhm.
still able to meet the setback in the back.
And it's quite large.
And it's large, but it also was using the FAR thing, which got them the thing that cantilevers over the parking lot, because
Mhm.
they didn't include somehow they didn't include the balconies. Those are huge balconies.
Yeah.
Do we know the setback in the back of this from the property line? It'd probably be hard to find out that.
It's 20.
It is 20 in the back.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I will say that I think 5-foot setback in the front is appropriate.
Okay.
Fair enough.
And then rear setbacks.
I think 20 feet is good. The question is, I think in E1, we asked for some sort of vegetative buffering.
Yeah, yes.
So here, I don't know that you
It's
can
gotta be
put in,
screening.
oh, go ahead, sorry.
You're thinking there has to be screening of some kind.
There's got to be screening of some kind, but maybe here, I don't know where those trees are. I have a feeling I mean,
What are you asking for here? Is this rear setback?
yeah, I assume it extends from where that white plastic fence is on the lower
Yeah,
lot.
it is hard to see, but if you say it's probably roughly right in the middle, you get to you get to 20.
I mean,
Mhm.
I don't, I think
That's
that's
almost 25.
Yep.
Yeah, that's 25. Well, if you go to the top of the building, Taylor, you can still see the white picket fence from the other one. So if you draw up to there, yeah, that's 20 right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think these lots are not square. What a surprise. So I think 20 feet is good. If we ask them to do 5-foot vegetative, then or landscape, then that really makes it hard to put in the parking on surface behind the building if they build it like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a tree desert too, but we're giving that nice deep sidewalk and we're gonna try to do dimensions for tree planting on the sidewalks. It doesn't help the screening with the neighbors in the back, so maybe we require a glare analysis. I mean, we do anyway, right? So the lighting in the rear is gonna matter a lot because of the neighbors.
And I guess, if we do, how much land do you need in order to put in some tall, non-deciduous shrubs?
Don't get me started on how many square feet we need. I'm trying so hard to figure that out. It's not, I don't know. I don't know. I will know by the time we put this forward, but I currently don't know how many square feet you're supposed to build for optimal tree happiness.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if we could set aside some number of feet there for that, then the
Well, can we-
vegetative,
Can we just put the setback and put vegetated screening?
yeah, I guess we could do that. We just have to define what the vegetative screening is.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
sounds good. We should kind of define what it is we're talking about, but yeah.
So
okay,
you guys, so
That-
you want a 20-foot setback with a vegetated screening condition or something. And
and
do
a
you want that
fence.
to be okay? And you want that to be any different if it abuts residential versus any other zone?
I think the Wests all do at least risk a butt.
But what if this rezones to
Yeah,
SCI?
and then
Actually, there is, if you come up here, you have it abuts SCI right up here
in West 3 and 4.
in West 4.
Yeah.
If it's SCI, I think it should be the same.
Yeah, I don't think that you should. It doesn't seem like you. If you're at 20 feet, it doesn't seem to be that you need to make a difference.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
So we're at 20 feet plus vegetative and fence for both W2 and W3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what about side setbacks?
Yeah, I was just gonna say we skip side setbacks.
Because those are more difficult. So we've got 5 plus 12-foot sidewalks in the front, 20-foot plus vegetative in the back. And then on the sides, well, if we go back, I mean, this is one of the ones where we want to, we have 0 setbacks in the side setbacks in the W1 and E1.
But we're really trying to make sure that's a very active streetscape. And at some point up the street, we want to space them a little bit. The whole thing was you'd move it to one side or another because you'd stick a driveway somewhere. So we were trying
Yeah.
to control how that connects. I don't know if we want to start creating buffer zones between parcels. I don't know.
Well, if we go back to our prototypical 10,000 square foot lot and do a street view
Yeah.
from the other side, yeah. Just move move north a bit, Taylor. Or one more. There we go. So this is, this is what happens if you don't have huge setbacks between buildings, is the people, they built it as close as they could to that fence, and it has a pretty negative impact on their abutter.
Right.
So, but if there are 2 large buildings side by side, well, they also wanted to put windows on the side of their house. So if the White House on the right is torn down and someone builds right up to their property line, then
Right.
everybody's going to be staring into each other's windows.
Ew. So a side setback seems like it's becoming appropriate for these districts.
So, I mean, a side setback could include a driveway.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point we said that there was going to be vegetative buffering between on the side setbacks in E1 and W1. Did I misremember that?
No, I'm sure it's come up.
So
Mod in that area has a 10-foot side setback, because that's still all in mod 3. Well, there it still is, I believe. So somebody could come in and put a residential and put a 10-foot setback. I'm not sure why that wouldn't make sense for mixed use as well.
I mean, we could put a 5-foot setback, which kind of only lets you do a little landscaping. It doesn't it's not much of anything. But you sort of are encouraged to do something.
Yeah, but you end up with what happens on the left side of this, on that building. That probably isn't 5 feet, but it's probably not that much smaller.
Yeah,
It's pretty tight. 5 feet's pretty tight.
yeah.
So I think I agree with Brian, 10 feet.
All right, let's do 10.
And then Michael will tell us why we shouldn't be doing 10, but let's do 10.
Where's your driveway?
That's why we pay him to tell us why we're doing it wrong.
How do we mess up? All right, we're moving into 10-foot side setbacks as we head up the street.
Okay,
I
so
don't-
are we, I think we finished.
I think
there
we did.
something
too.
left?
We touched on the rest of that. So use tables, we might want to cruise through. I
Are
don't
we,
know.
are we,
Do we want to
sorry.
just, do we want to stay in the size zone and buzz up the rest of the districts, or do we want to switch to use tables?
Well, I think
rather
W2 and W3 are
zoom up
pretty
and-
similar.
They are
W2 and 3 are
pretty
similar, and W4 is just gonna, well, W4 might just be shorter.
Can we just buzz up the side since we're
Let's do
in
it.
that
Yeah,
mode of
agreed.
thought?
Okay, so then W3 starts where we last left our hero and continues. What is why can I not come up the street that breaks these districts?
So
Um,
W3 starts at Swanton.
and
Water
ends
Street.
at Water, you're saying?
Yeah,
No.
water, one doesn't cross the intersections.
Oh, that's right, Swanton Water. Okay, yep. It's on that side, yes, water, understood.
So we're north of water now. Is that correct? Or
That would be W2, yeah.
There we go.
And we're out of the mod now, so if we want to allow residential by right, we need to have a difference between residential and mixed use. Not by right, we're out of the mod is all I should say.
Yep. So now we need to consider our residential things. And the parcels are similar depths. Okay, is there anything we should focus on right away that we know we need to change, or do we feel like some of this will be consistent? Like, is 3 stories sort of fine for 3 and 4?
I think so.
yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
For residential as well?
Yes, it's 3 now. Yeah,
I would argue that we still want mixed use, even though we're not competing with the 3A, we still want some incentive for mixed use on this whole stretch. So maybe 2.5 residential, 3 mixed use. I don't know, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, that might be nice to break up the height line.
Yeah. I'm still torn as to whether we really want pure residential up here.
What is it now? Is it residential all the way
It's-
up? I thought there was some retail
That's-
stuff going up.
There's mostly retail all the way up on that side. I think there's all retail.
you have, Glorious Pizza, insurance company.
Yeah, there's a credit union there.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't-
that's
It's all,
gone.
yeah, it's all pretty much. I mean, there is a proposed fully residential project on that corner.
Right.
There's that office building there, and this one story.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing, yeah, if there is a residential, one of the maps that you put up, Taylor, showed there was a pool behind one of these things.
Yes,
And that struck me as bizarre. It was on the GIS map, I think. Yeah,
So
that one right there.
Should we be pointing out someone's pool?
Well, anyone can find it on the map. I don't know if, so that would imply almost that 924 might be partially residential. But I don't see a pool there
I
anymore.
think it's supposed to be right here. Yeah, I don't think it's there
Oh,
anymore.
they're filling it in. Oh, well.
And I'm pretty sure this is a office.
Yeah,
The blue house is residential. That's the office.
Okay, it is.
That's residential.
Duplex, yeah.
okay, so we have one remaining residential, but
Right.
everything else seems to be mixed or commercial.
Or yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's mixed.
They are
Mhm.
renovated residential buildings though, so the feeling of it is residential, even though they're using it as offices.
yes.
So I
Yes.
don't know if it's the wrong sort of vibe to put residential only in there. If we keep them same as these, sort of shorter.
Deb, are you proposing that W3 only be mixed use and not be residential? Or are we just throwing that out there? 'Cause I could go either way, really.
I'm just, I don't know. So I'm looking at, we do need more residential. It wouldn't be, but I mean, again, we're looking at, I'm worried about losing any of the commercial we have up there now. That's
Yeah,
all.
do we really want to put residential only in a spot where there already is retail? Do we have to say residential only?
So
can we just-
the folks there who have, I mean, there's not many of them, but the properties that are already all residential can stay. They're there by right. So they
Mhm.
can sell it and leave it. They could renovate and stay resident. So we're not affecting them. So
Right.
we're trying to build a mixed use district. It's fine. We can,
Yeah, I mean, the other concern I have is that, so if commercial can go up, say, an extra story, then you're going to, and you have mixed residential and commercial, you might have, you'll have a varied roof line. I don't want the residential people to feel like they're being shadowed out. I'm not sure that Main Street is really, well,
residential.
pure
Yeah.
residential. I don't know. I'm just worried about losing that commercial.
I hear you. And it's a 60% activation, so you still have ground floor units.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I would
Okay.
argue for residential by special permit.
Okay. It meets the ask, which was to vitalize the streetscape. Okay, so we are maybe we will put residential by special permit on our use table for West 3 and 4, but we are mostly focusing on dimensions, thinking of it as a mixed use. And we have that for East 1 and West 1 anyway.
Yeah,
All right, great. So anything else? So the maximum building footprints we talked about, Michael's gonna sort that out anyway, building separations, uninterrupted facade, and all of these pieces are, I think,
Can I ask one question before, just for West 4, because we're doing the whole stretch?
Yep.
Do we want that to still be 3 stories when we get down to West 4, which is, like we talk about tapering it down, should that be a 2.5 stories, or is 3 stories fine as we taper it down up there? Just throwing that out there because otherwise it doesn't look like we're actually tapering down anything between West 4 and West 2.
so what we abut there is actually a little less intensely residential than West 3. We almost would make more sense to do these are bigger, deeper.
where does West 4 start?
At um
At the Verizon.
Horizon.
So
At the
you
Verizon.
you have this corridor, which is the Verizon parking lots, some automotive use here. Oh, I think I'm in Woburn now.
I was thinking about the question
I mean, if we can
the
extend
question
it,
asked
we will.
by John Fallon, which was more or less, is it just going to be one big long district where we try to fit in as much as possible? And the answer, of course, is no. We're trying to taper it But I just want to make sure we actually are tapering between West 2 and West 4 if we think that's appropriate. And maybe they're all fine to be the same. 2, 3, and 4 could be the same, and it's just different from West 1.
This does that Hemingway neighborhood, because of the angle of Hemingway, does feel pretty crowded. So 3 stories might feel, although that building, that Verizon building's so large. And then you've got Creative, what is it? I always get them wrong. Creative Corner. So putting a shorter building in front of Creative Corner seems a little sort of the wrong thing to preserve versus
well,
all the residential that's in West 3.
Yeah, so Creative Corner is that big building over there.
Right.
So we're not actually putting anything, that's far enough away from Main Street that it doesn't really matter.
That's what I'm saying though. Is there, what is that, the lot that abuts Creative Corner? Is
This one right-
there there's a gap lot, so that is a residential home that would be in between what we're rezoning and Creative Corner?
Yes, that's a
Okay,
residential.
so, okay. Yeah, so that would be nice to not have them squished between 2 3-story buildings.
But they also have I don't think they have a conforming lot, just
Right,
because that setback is so tight against the garage or the gas station rather.
This building is for sale. It's
Oh,
probably
Finlay?
the number one building I've gotten questions about redevelopment opportunities for on this whole corridor.
Okay.
That
What are
building is-
people looking to do with it? What would
They
be?
want to do anything, but it just we don't have anything that allows them to do anything that's financially beneficial.
Okay,
So if they had a
so
3-story building, they would be even with the neighbor behind them.
they had a 3-story building and then we'd have to require them, can you go down that street and see what the setback is right now?
This is really poor coverage here. Can't go everywhere for some reason.
Oh, no.
I know Google Maps is such a pain.
Okay, so that is a 0 setback on that property.
So a setback would be protective. That would be nice.
So if they want to do anything on there, we want them to pull that building forward.
But it could be taller.
It could be taller, but it needs to have 20 feet setback.
Unless they just clapped their top on it.
I think I would argue that, I'm just going to go out here and say it. I think I would argue that West 4 should be 2.5 stories. I think that would sort of match the buildings behind as well, which look like they're 2.5 stories. And I think it would gently welcome you in as you come from Woburn, as the buildings get bigger and bigger as you get towards East 1 and West 1.
I
mean-
agree. 2.5 seems good to me.
If you know, going back to the 1026 Main, a 3-story building would be as tall as the 2.5-story house behind it. It wouldn't be any.
But it wouldn't be, right, it would be a straight
Would-
roof.
It would have, well, like the building that's there now, with a flat roof.
So the half story helps add a little,
Adds a little style.
which I think would be nice. I mean, I do always think about the entry into Winchester. All right, let's straw poll. 2.5 stories for West 4. John?
Just, can I understand what's going to be under the 2.5 stories first? Is it 2.5 stories and the first floor has to be commercial?
60% of the first floor would have to be commercial.
It seems like.
Or residential by special permit, or residential completely by special permit.
Right.
We really grant special permits though, dude.
We do special permits all the time. We don't do variances all the time. We, the town.
That's true. These are bigger lots, so they're getting a little more building than they would in West 3 for the same height.
Well, some of the lots are larger and, you know, It's so variable. Some of them are very small. Some of them, I don't know. I guess they maybe get around the size of that
You're-
the building we were looking at before, 2 offices and 4 residential units on the even side of Maine. Is the zoning there now? Is it 3?
I think
This would-
it's 3, and I think it's 45 feet, or is it 40 feet?
No, it's
45?
3 and 45.
3 and 45.
You get the extra half story and 5 feet.
I'm thinking the half story is nice because the detail at the top, I mean, it's nice to have that.
If you go the half story, at least go the extra. The extra 5 feet is gives you the opportunity for a more interesting roof. You're at 2.5, so that the floor area is going to be half of the floor below. You might use a foot or two for a more interesting roof. So 45, could make some sense.
Mhm.
I think 45 works there.
So
mean-
45, 2.5 stories.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Mhm.
Those would be very tall stories. Well, if your first story is commercial, it's probably going to be tall.
Well, you're going to want it. If you're
Yeah.
serious about trying to actually, have commercial, then yeah, a couple extra feet is appropriate. Um,
Yeah, I know. Somehow in my mind, 2.5 stories requiring commercial on the first floor seems like it would be a real disincentive.
I don't think you'll really get any development with 2.5 with
Yeah.
commercial on the ground floor. I can't imagine anyone coming in and seeing that and wanting to do something, especially here where you have actually on this whole west side, besides West 1, you have the largest lots abutting the fewest residential properties.
Mhm.
I think you have, if you do 2.5, you're just going to have like low, big square buildings, if anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, we're trying to create incentives to do commercial because, we understand that commercial is much less valuable than residential. And 60%, it's sort of like the first floor is commercial and you're only providing a floor and a half of residential. Taylor says it's not, no one's going to get excited about that.
Well, I mean, our prototypical 10,000 square foot lot, whatever number of street it was, I never remember it. That was actually 4 residential over commercial. So at some point, that guy there,
That was a full 3 stories.
yeah. So that's a full 3 story. So if we're looking at, I think that we would have to. I think it's 2.5 stories for 100% residential, and then we give them an extra story if they put in give them an extra, yeah, go up to 3 stories for mixed use.
But I want to keep this
Okay.
building in mind when we do our final rake over design guidelines, because this is probably not the aesthetic we want the whole length of the way.
I agree completely.
The one we're looking at now.
Yeah.
I mean,
I always think like, what's our worst case scenario? I always go back to 10 Converse, but this is not a bad example as far as sort of like what, if you can get away with this under design guidelines, we're not there yet.
So this,
It's an attractive building. It's just not an attractive Winchester building.
what they did here is, what we can see that they used a good deal of that plate for parking. I know those, I haven't been in this building, but I know those offices don't go to the back of the building. I've seen the garage doors on this. Yeah, you can see there's some garage doors on the side there.
Mm.
So they're principally using most of that for parking, which makes some sense.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to see the cars outside. It's just, makes a lot of sense. So we're talking about 2.5 stories if they want to do residential, and another half story, and maybe a few square feet, some additional height if they can do
Mhm.
commercial.
But then this is gonna be the only sub-district of all 7 to have a residential component? A residential only component? Because weren't we just talking about scrapping that for the other
Yeah, that's
sub-districts?
That would be by special, I think we're leaving all residential up to special permit.
Weren't we? I don't want to go backwards, but weren't we when we were back in W1? Oh, we were relying on the mod. I'm sorry. They could always fall back on the mod. So, but up
Right,
here,
right.
we're
We don't
saying
have an all residential option here, except by special permit.
Mhm.
So we're allowing up to a max of 3 stories, but we're counting on the design guidelines to require a cap. Okay,
so where do we land on this?
So 2.5, if they don't do commercial, and then they get 3 if they do commercial.
So they won't do commercial, in other words. They will just do residential at 2.5 is what my worry is. Because the extra half story is essentially the commercial part, because that's about 60% of a floor. So we just should be prepared that means we get 2.5 stories of residential in that area.
Well, what about,
Mm.
so what do we have now for open area requirements?
we still have. We haven't said we were changing it from 50% for mixed use.
Is that what's currently on the books?
We 60% was for the mod, and when we did East 1 and West 1, we brought it down to 50%. And then we
Yeah.
agreed that would be something we would adjust. So far we have 50%.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what it is right now. So let me see if I can come up with that.
I think it's. I think there's no requirement unless you're building residential. And then it's 60% for garden apartments and 70 for singles and duplexes.
Yep. So we can't give I mean, unless we dial it back to 50%. Nobody can, well, first off, nobody can build existing structures there as they are anyway, because the setbacks are all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The rear setbacks are wrong.
Where? Not all of them.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking like the Goslin building was, the law office was, I forget what that was, probably another autos thing.
No, it was built as Bodaki and carpet.
Oh, okay.
The original.
But the back end stretches all the way to the property line, so that has got to be prior to putting the zoning in, because you can't have a 0 setback when you go to a residential district. So if we're going to include an open area requirement, which isn't there now, I guess this comes down to how big of a building can you make with 20-foot setback, 10-foot side setbacks, 5-foot by 12 up front, and 3 stories. Yeah. But if you're right and there's no, that just going from 2.5 to 3 isn't enough to encourage commercial, then we have to put in an open space requirement in addition for the residential, which could be comparable to what's in the 3A districts, which is 60%, and come down to 50% or 40% here. This is another thing we float by, Michael.
But why aren't you just making residential special permit just like everywhere else?
Yeah, I think trying to,
It's probably tricky getting the incentives to work.
Well, if we do it by special permit, we still have to put in some sort of limitations on what they can do, right? So are we going to relax? Is it just the use, or are we going to relax? So when they go for a special permit, they just want a different use.
Yes.
So they have
Yeah,
to
it's
abide.
residential use is the special permit, not building dimensions.
Is that going to bite us?
Well, you can always say no to special permit.
Yeah, but it's sort of like, do we envision, if you have 100% residential, that the requirements for open area and other things are different?
Oh, you could. I mean, you know, the
I mean,
way it's written now, they have open area, there's no requirement unless it's residential. They have different standards for the use.
Yeah, because it seems that if we don't put in a minimum open area, then we're going to have buildings covering the lot because they already do. And it's going to be worse than what we're going to see closer to the town center.
mhm.
The special permit's going to be tied to your site plan review. So you
Use the-
have the opportunity to say, in order for us to allow this use, you have to do X, Y, Z. And that's even done in public session. So you even get to invite the abutters to that to be a part of the special permit granting. And they even get to weigh in on how far away the building should be or what the shielding should be or
So I'm a little leery of giving too much discretion.
I was, I should know, but in this case, for this zoning, the special permit, would this be under the authority of the ZBA? Or is
no
this,
planning board.
Yeah, part of the new zoning would be to make the planning board the SPGA for North Main.
so I mean, if you're, I think it's, different uses having different dimensional requirements for different uses makes complete sense to me. It's a different use. I mean, we do that now when we, have conflicting zoning districts abutting each other.
So maybe the answer is we take the 3A zoning for residential, and we say if you want to do residential, you have to follow that. But you still need a special permit, but you come in under the we just, copy it verbatim in and say, special permit residential, here are the rules you follow.
So you would, yeah. That would save us some time tonight.
I mean,
Can you make it a special permit?
Can
Yeah.
can we make it a special? Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, the beauty of that, if there is beauty, is that the underlying residential zoning is similar across the corridor. We know that, I mean, the only question is it, I mean, we know that it was a little denser down south below Clark. We could see whether or not the density given by the 3A is going to overwhelm these parcels, but we can tune that. And so then we're back to at least having a more restricted version of residential, which would hopefully spur people to want to do commercial. And therein we can actually use open area as a lever, height.
Yep.
The only thing I'll say is that if we were gonna say that the 3A, the special permit requirements for residential only are 3A, we'd be referring specifically to mod 3, I presume.
Yep.
Yep.
And mod
Yeah.
3
Can't
has
put a park view at. Good point.
has a 3-story height. And if we're at some point saying 2.5 stories, I realize there's not lots of other levers that happen in mod 3 that we're not talking about, but and it's still a special permit, but we might find that it'd be hard to incentivize mixed use still at the end in W4 compared to the 3A requirements for mod 3. I mean, I think it's something I like the idea. I like the simplicity of it. I think I just need to sort of see it all written down and say, wow, does that still make sense for W4? I think it might make sense for W2 and W3. It's, again, I come to W4, which I see it's the gateway. It might be a little bit smaller.
Yeah, I don't think we can extend 3A to W2, W3, and W4 without the town.
No, that's not what I meant. I
Okay.
meant the if we're talking about the special permit expectations being for residential only, being that of mod 3's requirements, which I thought was what we were saying, that might be bigger than it might be bigger than we want in W4. It's still a special permit, and it might not be bigger. I think I'd have to see what it looks like and say, does that make sense?
Okay.
It's hard to sort of think about it in abstract.
For the
Yeah.
sake of timing, why don't of the rest of this evening, why don't we bookmark what we have allowed for mixed use for W4, which I think includes up to 3 stories for mixed use and otherwise similar setbacks to the other districts, which doesn't give a tapering effect, but does achieve the goal of vitalizing the, all of the things. And then we will bookmark residential mod 3 ? We will just spend some time digesting it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, agreed. I mean, the two levers from mod 3 would be height and open area.
And maybe we just poach those numbers and make that the residential, but we axe some of the other parts because we don't want to lose setbacks. We don't want to necessarily go to that much open. We don't know, but
Yeah. Okay.
okay. Okay, so we can either hop across the street and briefly touch on East 1 and East 2 and East 3, or we can buzz through use tables for the West districts. Or we can tackle it all
I vote we do dimensions
for
for
East
E2 and E3.
in the zone.
Me too.
Okay, I'm
Me
sorry
too.
that the chart doesn't have those columns for those of you who are using it. This is gonna be a back to the recording day because my notes are a hot mess tonight. Okay. East 2. Remember, we've got this little buffer zone of residential that we preserved. So is East 2, East 2 is mostly, that's 955 Main, right?
Yep.
This is a wonky district.
And it still has, I think that's GBD 1 around the corner on Swanton.
Yeah,
Oh,
Okay,
and we're including that.
okay, good. That
so
would be
those
a
are those,
horrible place.
yeah.
Yeah. So on this side of the street, I think we have slightly less concern about the neighbors.
Right.
In part because there's that MWRA easement going all the way down the back,
Which you
Right.
cannot build on.
which you cannot build on. So that kind of, although you can park cars on apparently.
Yep. So it's kind of a built-in parking
Yeah.
And
in the back of the building.
this is the this is the this is the question Michelle Pryor has about how can we do public-private parking collabs so that we can reduce parking requirements.
Well, the public part is that stretch of
This one up here,
that one up there is owned by the town.
we lease it.
mhm.
I think they just
Okay.
released it again, or we're in the process of doing it recently.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went through town meeting. But I mean, that lease is only for, I think, 5 years or something. I don't think it's for a very long time. I can't remember. So
As a note here for those unfamiliar, this road does not connect here.
No,
There's a gate here.
the
This
rocks.
just acts as a driveway for these buildings,
Mhm.
which is, you know, maybe not necessary, but it's the way it is.
So if we look at that structure that's almost in the middle of your screen down there, the one that's on the corner of the road that goes nowhere, that is a fairly large complex, which works pretty well from the street. I think is it 2.5 stories?
Yeah, yeah, those look nice.
So that's a 2.5 story.
Mhm.
It's you don't really notice it from the road much because it's been pushed back a bit and it's got some shading from the trees.
Mhm.
So that is, I would say that if we want now this is 100% residential, but that scale I think works well on that stretch of the road.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree with that. So that would also be, I mean, this is one district though, so that's also applying to 955 Main, which granted isn't going to turn over anytime soon, but
Right.
if it did,
It's,
Is 955 Main a condo, or are they?
no, they're all offices. It's all like,
Yeah, but
It's a
no,
con-
but it's
oh, how
somebody
it's
own it all.
It's a condo.
condo
So
ownership.
it's going to be there for a long time.
Yeah,
Yep.
getting everyone to agree would not. But still,
But
I'm just calling it out because we will be zoning it.
yeah. So I think that if we look at the 2.5 story residential and we say, okay, if we want a commercial footprint underneath there, give them an extra story. And I think that fits on E. So that's two residential over one commercial with lots of parking underneath. So that commercial space has to be pretty small.
Mhm.
that,
3 stories there,
actually,
though, right? That's
that,
3 stories, not 2.5.
yes, and
This was-
that's actually a unit on the first floor there. That office is very small.
Yeah. So I would say going for a 2.5 residential, 3.5 commercial works on E2.
3.5 commercial. Yep,
Yes.
yep, I agree.
3.5 would
matches
not
west
be
too.
would not be much taller than this building.
Yep. Okay.
And yeah, because I mean, again, there's plenty of setback from in the rear because of the remnants of the railroad. So I think, and then on the corner, I think that building is currently 2 stories.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think it can go up another 1.5. So that's fully commercial at the moment.
That, no, there's some, those are apartments above.
Oh, well, I know
Yeah.
there's businesses up there because I always say, why don't I go to that accountant? He's only 10 feet away from me.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, no, there are residential apartments and there are two office spaces.
Okay, so mixed use, who knew?
Well, it's sure, and the first floor is all commercial.
Yeah, it's with at least one empty shop.
Yeah.
Can you go
Um,
behind that building from the sky? What is that? Is it 2 stories or like behind it's on a hill there somehow, isn't it?
well, there you
Yeah,
go.
this is a basement. So if you go
That's
back
considered a,
here, you see this, there's a wall here. You go
Gotcha.
back here, this is not counted in their, this isn't gonna be counted in their square footage. This is just gonna be a on basement level.
how about the
But it
building
looks
at the
like,
bottom of the screen? The one that that one right there. That 2-story, this comes back to how we're defining stories. Is that a 2-story building or a 1-story building there?
This is gonna be a 2-story building here.
Okay, but from the
well,
street view on the front, it's a 1-story in the front.
well, it's a weird
Yeah,
one on the front.
No,
Yeah.
it's just
That's really a strange. Can we go down at street level? Because
so this is
It's the PT place.
Mario, and
Yeah.
this is Mario Cavino's building, and he wants to redevelop it. He does not want to add commercial to it, but it's just a
so
comment.
this is a 1-story on this side and 2-story in the back.
The difference here is that the first story is livable space or occupiable space, whereas pizza shop is not.
So he wants that all residential.
That's what he's asked for. But he'll keep commercial if that's what we say.
I think we need to keep that commercial. I think that corner is,
Yeah, it's
it's separated. I think it would be great for mixed use there.
I agree with the park across the street. I think it's a pretty busy area anyway. It's pretty close to the high school if you come out from the back of it.
So 3.5 here works.
I mean, 3.5, if you were to add a story and a half to this building for the townhouses sort of across the parking lot, it's a pretty big structure to be looking at.
Wait, which townhouses across the parking lot?
I think you could see it from the aerial. Maybe Taylor, you could swing around. Oh, you just missed them. Rotate, there they are. You got a better view of it with the kind of aerial shot. Right there. There you go.
I didn't mean to go in there. So you're still gonna have, yeah. This
If
is,
you-
I think,
you're good.
this is a public way here, so you're not gonna be able to. You're not gonna be able to build here.
Right. No, that's the access.
This is a right of way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just
I
pointing
don't
out.
know where we are anymore. I can't see where we are. Okay, now I see it.
Right,
Okay,
we're right at the intersection.
perfect.
So,
So I was just saying that
yeah,
those parking spaces behind that building on the public way that Taylor was talking about. If you're standing there, you're looking at a full 2 stories of building. If you go to 3.5, you'd be looking at 4.5 stories. For those people in the condos and those townhouses, it's big. It's a huge structure.
it is big. Yeah, I hadn't appreciated they were right there.
But if you when Taylor was taking us down that private way, you're looking at, it's a full 2 stories. But it's only 1 story on Swanton Street, and it's a low 1 story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, part of it is just not even a story. It's just like 4 or 5 feet of the daycare peeking up into the parking lot. Right there. Yeah. Maybe a little taller than that.
Mm-hmm.
6 feet. But that's the part of the the Winchester Hospital child care. And then rotating to the right there, that is residential. I think
Hmm.
there's some 2 offices in the first floor. I'm not sure they're currently used, but you have at least 2 residential units there.
Yeah, I think the first floor, I think, is office in the front. At least they seem to change their flowers out, their plants out as if they were offices. Okay, so what scale do we need on this one then? I think this is, I think it's easier on the corner for Andrew's Pizza et al. To go to 3.5.
Yes. Yep.
And that would be, but that, to the people behind it, it looks like a 4.5 story building.
Yeah, for those people behind Andrews is, if you're familiar with the area, they're a lot further away.
Yeah. So
and you're
what
already
if, okay. So if we don't do 3.5 there, do we allow for less open area? It's an awful lot of asphalt there in any case.
Mm-hmm.
If the
Yeah.
And
purple
is it,
building is 3.5 stories, that would be 3.5 stories measured from the back side, not from the front side?
Correct.
Okay. So it wouldn't feel more than 3.5 stories from behind it. It would actually, from the yellow buildings up, the condos up above, it would look like 3.5 stories.
I mean, I'm not familiar with I'm not familiar with whether if you would, go and attack that with a surveyor, whether that area we're looking at is a story or a basement. But
This
And
is
that's a
light
really good
industrial.
question.
I
That
mean,
can't be right.
The purple is light industrial?
I can't be right. That's got to
No.
be mislabeled.
actually, it always was.
Yeah, but
It was a
light
factory.
industrial is only a single district. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
but
is all
it's,
GV. Yeah, this is all mislabeled.
well, light industrial has
Or
been
maybe
split.
maybe not.
Yeah,
Maybe
light
it's not.
industrial is chunks. So,
Hmm.
I guess it is light industrial.
I
Yeah.
thought well, that's okay. So how about a compromise? I mean, if we want to ensure that, I mean, 2 stories on Swanton would not be off, right?
Not at all. No.
So if we somehow have the half story, if we go to 3.5, which is adding 1.5 to this, we pull the half story towards Swanton, I'd still be looking at a 3-story building in the back. But I don't know that we can, in order to make this developable, we've got to do something.
So you can do 3 stories today. And it's not considered developable.
It's not at 3 stories?
And we have a developer who wants to develop today, but does not finds the dimensional constraints too restrictive to develop.
So
And
he's
it's
saying
Mario
3-story.
Covino. We know that they're not shy from developing.
So what's the magic number to make it developable? I'm not saying we should go there. The question is, if 3 isn't developable, is 4 developable? I mean, is this are we chasing an impossible goal here?
He looks
Well,
across the
three and a
street.
half
Park
with removing the restrictions of, I mean, if he's light industrial, I mean, that's probably why I mean, you can't add residential to light industrial. So
Right.
that's probably the main reason why he hasn't been able to do it. So it's probably a use thing rather than a,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to, so we reclassify this as E2. We say you can put another half story on top as long as the half story is on Swanton. That gives relief to the people in the back. They still only see a 2-story building,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to require 60 or 50% open area, which he probably already has because there's an awful lot of parking there.
Yeah.
Is any of the parking on the Woburn Loop land, is that all, who does that belong to? In the back
loop
along
all
that,
the way,
Part of it,
all this here.
yeah, who owns that?
I don't know.
Because there's an awful lot of parking, and it seems that if they have access to that parking, that reduces the amount of open area they need, and we maybe get rid of some of the asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
It's, well, here from assessing,
So I'm buying
it's
LLC.
259 Swanton, which is actually Cavino's building,
I think
Cavino's address.
that the space you had highlighted before, it's always been my understanding that Cavino owns that.
So it looks, yeah, he does.
And that Andrews,
It's 259 Swanton.
and that Andrews Pizza owns the parking directly behind their building.
Yeah.
And that they have an easement to travel to it.
That is
So-
what this is saying. Yes.
That they, yeah.
So if we allow them, if we say, hey, you can, if you put your parking over there,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't need as much parking on site. It's only a short walk. And that actually means that we have to tweak our parking regulations, because I don't think we ordinarily allow parking off-site.
But it's technically on site.
Well, but it's a different lot, isn't it?
But it's the same, it's owned by the same entity.
Yeah, but it's
No.
owned by the same thing, but I think it goes by lot rather than by owner.
It also has to travel over a piece of property it doesn't own.
Yeah.
I think that would be like the shared driveway situation where you would just have to have part of your application be an agreement between the owners, both of which is the same person.
No, I meant the Iliopoulos' own.
Oh, I meant
You have
to.
this right here is an easement.
Right. You have to understand the terms.
Yeah, because you can get into it from Hill Street, but then you have to walk across the shared portion to
Well-
get to your abode.
So currently there's a gate at Hill
Yeah.
Street. No access to-
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not
Um,
gonna look that up.
so I don't know that we've come up with a compromise which works.
Yeah, this district's tricky. Uh,
Does Cavino own the little house down
Yeah.
on the, okay, so he's got essentially most of this lot except for that tiny bit behind Andrews.
Yeah.
So he would probably demo that one. I think it would be interesting if Michael did a fit on this to see what we can do.
mm-hmm.
Because this is a really, because of that drop off, it's an odd property. How about can we move on to E3 maybe?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have time?
We have as much time as people can hang in there for. If we wrap up with E3, we got a lot of stuff done, so.
So E3 includes all of the condos as well as whatever this one is,
That's a
1022.
Winchester Hospital building. It's the imaging center and offices, I think.
Yeah. But
And then
I could see that
10K.
getting redeveloped. That would be, I
yeah,
could easily see that getting.
Yeah,
so
and Abut's
Mike,
condos.
Oh, that
yeah,
was,
Mike,
that almost got redeveloped a few years ago.
yeah. So Michael has this great plan for this area, and I
Mhm.
think he's got a 4-story building.
No, that's not gonna happen. 3, 3.5?
Well, I can't remember. What he did is he actually increased the amount of commercial space, moved the building away from the neighbors, and he
Mhm.
made it much more efficient. And
Okay.
I think we actually found a way to put in some more houses in the back. So
Okay.
if we could figure out what the dimensional requirements were for that plan,
Mm-hmm.
that would be a good place to start.
And
Because
this is
this
a
is,
good, it's a good place to expand the commercial base because we're supposed to next revitalize. I mean, this is a really important gateway to that light industrial area. So if this becomes a more vital corridor, that's valuable to everyone working at the light industrial area.
And I would like to just put on my economic development hat for a second. We have an opportunity to zone something to the town's top employer and um, and biggest money draw to the town with the Winchester Hospital. So from an economic standpoint, we have, you know, the Winchester Hospital is desperate to expand, like desperate to expand. We want to be able to keep them in Winchester. Very important to our economics.
How do you? Why do you say that?
Why do I say that?
I mean, they don't pay any property taxes, right?
We just
But
get pilot, I assume.
they employ thousands of people who all come to Winchester from all over the place, who shop at our stores, who use our resources, who contribute to our local economy. I mean, it's thousands of people.
they also do the payment in lieu of taxes, but I don't know what that's at. In lieu pilot, that's what it's called. Yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, Winchester Hospital. I don't know what the employment is at their Winchester facility. I guess they have 3 now, don't they? In Winchester?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have
Yes.
3. Yeah, they're. Yeah.
well, why don't we at least go back to whatever Michael and when John Rufo was still working with him on this. He had a really good, let me see if it's in one of the documents.
It's a fairly deep lot, so with setbacks, the height wouldn't be as bad, but that is a little cluster of condos behind it.
Yeah.
They're screened. I think there's trees all around them. I don't know where the test vote. I don't know where that is. What was the height we went to for West 4? We went to 3. But the east side. How tall are the condos? 3, 2.5?
Yeah.
They're not fully 3, those condos there? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think. I mean,
I thought they were 3.
They're tall.
They're 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
but
3.5.
Okay.
I'm sure they eat up. I'm sure we look at them, they're pretty close to 40 feet.
Mm-hmm.
The upstairs of those, I don't think is anything. That's the half story there. I know
Mhm.
someone who lived in one of those, and I don't think there's anything up there. I think it's just mechanicals and insulation.
Yeah, but you look at it, there's a lot of room up, if you wanted to, there's,
Okay, I found the thing from Michael. It's
Okay.
it's on the shoot. I can't get to there on the OneDrive thing that Taylor set up. And he's got a 1024 main, I think it's 1024. He's got a 3-story building with 33,000 square feet of office, 14,000 square feet of retail. And he's got, I don't think he didn't put houses on this one, but it's pretty substantial increase in the amount of space and usable space, but he does go up to 3 stories, but it's a much, it is.
If the
go to-
condos are 3.5 stories, 3 isn't as egregious. I was thinking they were 2.5, but if they're 3.5.
Yeah, if you go to, on the planning board zoning, North Main zoning in the share, no, not SharePoint, whatever it's called. It is SharePoint. It's the one from, November 8th, 2023. Oops.
It's a presentation.
Yeah, if you, do you want me to share my screen?
Go for
Sure.
With that, if I can get to, oh shoot, I've split my screen in two. Oh no. Let me go over here. Let's see how much this works. It's going to be weird. Okay, so I'm not sure what you can see.
You're all screen.
Come on, you can do it. Okay, so can you see the refinement and implementation of the vision slide?
Yes, we
Yep.
see it.
Yes, we got it.
Okay, so the very next page shows the layout. So he's moved all of the buildings to the front of the road, and that's 3 stories. And he's moved it away from he's moved it by a good amount. I think this was like 10 or 15 feet here, moving it away from the neighboring property residential. And I believe this is the Anka house, so that's been saved, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is, I mean, 3 stories is great. So whatever, I would say whatever dimensions he needs to get to this sort of layout would be something we would shoot for.
Okay, so you said 3 feet. That's probably his 12-foot sidewalk. We've got
He's got 5-foot front
5 foot
setback shown,
Yeah.
results in a 16 to 20-foot wide sidewalk zone. Fully parked using GBD2 ratios. 3 commercial floors. 45-foot limit might be tight, so we could pop that up a bit. It's isolated enough, I think, from the rest of, so I think this is a good setup for E3.
Comes with a marketing slide. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, it gives the condos a nice amount of space. Preserves the front. Russell.
Yeah, there is one weird thing is that there's some weird access through this site to get to the condos. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. It is weird back there.
So we have to figure out where the actual lot lines are.
It looks like he left the space between the trees for that driveway to be continuous, but
Yeah.
They also accessed from Cross Street, but I imagined it was a fire access or something, because there's a road from Cross Street into those condos somehow.
Mhm.
Yeah, but there is a little bit of a road behind there. So it's just weird, yeah.
Okay,
But I think if we give them a little relief on the height on this side, I think that would work.
I'll take this. Can we just build this tomorrow? We'll take this building right here, just like you look.
that's right.
You might have to talk to the hospital about that.
Eh, They'll roll with it. Okay. That sounds good. It's fairly consistent with what we have everywhere else for. It's
Yeah.
more generous for setbacks, but I don't think there's much else we have to adjust for the.
And then let me see what he's got for that, for what we're calling E1 now. Or E2 rather.
Yeah, we're stuck at E2. It's our last remaining,
Yeah. This is a great reimagining of 955 Main, if
Mhm.
ever they sell all their units.
it'll need an earthquake before they sell all the units.
Yep. Wow, he had a lot on 955. Oh, here we go. So this is how he envisions it. These are
No, that's not
yeah,
there.
this
That's
is Swanton.
the telephone. Yeah, isn't that are you sure?
No, you're right. I'm wrong.
Horizon corner, he's right.
You're right. I'm wrong.
Yep.
I want
Parcel 6.
parcel 6. I
Yeah.
don't think this is actually in any order. So
What did he have for parcel 6?
I'm trying to find it.
Interesting.
It's, what did he do for parcel 6? This is all being rendered by Microsoft, so that's why it's taking her so long. Okay, so this is site 3.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he did do it in order. That's
Wait,
site 4.
we're
Okay,
getting there.
come on.
Site 5.
Oh, now he calls this parcel 5. That's not parcel 5.
Gonna be here. No,
Well, let's go. Let's see what he's got. Nope, now he's back up to parcel 1. Oh,
It's
maybe
an
we got
orange.
parcel.
We're getting there.
There
Parcel
we go,
6.
parcel 6. Oh, I can't read this. It's so tiny.
So setback's 0.
Calculating average ground plane would make 3 floors challenging with a 1 level drop off in the rear. Yes. So I'm going to zoom this in somehow.
Yeah.
So doesn't say how many, okay, so this is 2.5 floors that's existing.
3 floors. He has it as a 3 floor.
He's got this as 4, no, that's the square feet. Oh, there we go, 3 floors. Measured from presumably, does he have a forward view of this? Does he show us what it might look like? No. Nope. That's a bit as good as we get here.
is it the upper left-hand corner of this? Like if you go a little higher on this page, right there, is that what that is? No, I don't think it is.
No, that's just, he's looking
That's
at
just a rendering or
3-story
something.
buildings. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we do 3 stories, these are all 3 floors. And I don't know if this is 3 floors above Main Street or 3 floors above the loop.
Yeah, he just said it's gonna be tricky to figure out.
But
So average ground plane. 1 level drop off in the rear garage plinth. So it sounds like He's
wait.
more aggressive with heights than we tend to be, or his initial renderings were more, so I'm guessing he's thinking 3 feet street level and then a garage as the drop-off floor.
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I
So
think
it's gonna look, yeah,
he's, you know, when you think about it, you have that green 4 unit in a business. It's a good sized building. 2 doors down.
But what did we say for what would it be, I guess, West 3, directly across the street from there? Didn't we say
We ended
3
up at
stories?
yeah, yep,
So on the street view, it would be the same on either side, right there.
right, we're just thinking about the neighbors.
The neighbors in the back, who are quite, I think John said, I mean, they're quite a bit removed from there because of the, I mean, somewhat removed. I don't want to say quite a bit removed, but they are more removed from the back
Mm-hmm.
because of the easement and whatnot.
okay, so he's got,
But does that end up being 3 stories or 3.5 because of that drop off?
so that's interesting because, so on the left, you see there's this gray platform and that is the parking garage.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look over under the main diagram, it has garage roof deck, which is
Yeah.
the gray part. Then he's got this, which must be the ground floor, because that's your retail coming in.
Yep.
And then he's got at least one other floor of residential. So if we could add all these up and get to 50 units, that would let us know.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, he's got an extra 2 floors of residential.
Yeah, so 3 stories at the street level.
22.
So it's
One
4 stories, so
floor
it's
that's
4
half,
stories from behind.
yeah, 1 story that's and then, yeah, the 4 stories parking.
Yeah, the 4th story is parking. So it would be 4 stories from behind, which would be quite a bit to swallow.
Yeah, so if we made it 3 stories, then it's the same where the parking is sunk from the street, it's 2.5.
Well, then you're down to, you essentially cut the number of residential units in half. So you're down by 50 minus 22.
You know, it's you're probably, you know, just looking at it, I would say that if you cut out those 22 units, you really reduce the likelihood that these owners are going to get together for something like this. It wouldn't be that much money in it. Is that Taylor? Is that little gray 2-family house next to Andrea's? Is that owned by the town? Is that part of their?
Way to family next to Andrea's.
It's a little gray 2-family house right next to Andrea's Pizza. I remember thinking that was owned by the Winchester Housing Authority.
It is the housing authority.
Yep, that's what I remember as well.
And Michael included that. He grabbed that parcel for that drawing. But I guess you could certainly, you know, you get more than 2 units of affordable housing out of it, certainly.
Yeah, that's certain. Yep, that's possible. Yeah, it'd be complex to get there, but it would be a conversation that they'd want to have.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, I mean, we could bargain for it because that's town property and this would actually,
Yeah.
it's one of the few pieces that we could use. But
Mhm.
I know Winchester Housing Authority has not been, they were unhappy when the property down by, on Highland Ave was taken from them. Eventually, I think the select board paid to renovate one of the other units somewhere else. But anything we do with this, we should probably bring in the housing authority. Or I'm
Mhm.
sure, hopefully it'll be brought in if this goes like this. But
But I gotta say, if you slice that floor off,
All right, guys, I'm gonna sign off. I will see you at the next meeting.
Good night, Nick.
Night,
Right,
Nick.
Nick.
Good night. Yep.
I think it all comes down to how we define the height of the building, which I feel like will ultimately be a building department. I don't know, like, this is an issue, I think we were talking before, like when we were just talking about a sloped building, what's the average mean height from where? This is just a huge slope, and do you measure it from the back, from the front? You know, we could call it 3 stories. What does that mean? And that's above my pay grade. I think we need
Yeah.
Taylor or
What-
somebody from the building department say how they would determine the height of that building.
usually you'd have an engineer take the measurements, have a surveyor take the measurements, and the mean height in the basement or that bottom floors and on the dirt should be below the mean grade of the footprint of the building. And coming up with that mean grade number is, there are different approaches.
yeah, but it's, I mean, it's
This-
not like this is a field of active research, because, you know, there's only so many ways you can get the building height. So I think I'm more concerned not with how we define that, but what the building should look like. And so if we all stand in that back entranceway to the property and we look up and we say, wow, 4 stories from this vantage point is just too high, then we design the zoning to not allow it, regardless of the definition of grade or whatever. We could, I mean, it's just,
I don't know
we're
if
gonna have
it's,
to,
Yeah, I don't know how we would define the zoning to not allow it, because we'd say, how tall do you want to make the building? And we say we want to allow 3 stories, then it's then up to, if, let's say we say 3 stories, it's up to then how they measure how many stories it is. So the
we
Andrea's
could, we
Pizza
could,
you told me is 2 stories and a basement.
so we have a good definition of a basement. So I don't, you know, that's pretty easy to do. We could say 3 stories as seen, you know, measured from Main Street. No, in some of the in the draft zoning that Taylor sent out today, they did explicitly say that if it's from Main Street, so we could say 3 stories from Main Street, which would give you that height, or we could say 2 stories from Main Street. I mean, that's what's going to set it, you know.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
so we would define the height. I mean, it's an odd property, so we will come up with a reasonable definition, which is easy to follow, because it's just a weird property. So we choose a fiducial, which is easy to measure from.
then we're all
So
done.
3 stories from Main Street or Swanton Street in the case of the property around the side that's not on Main Street. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're consistent.
Yeah, I mean, why don't I think we can take that under advisement if we want to. I think we should all just go and stand in that strip and look up and imagine what a 4-story building would look like and say, is that appropriate for the site, given
Good
the
idea.
proximity of the condos in the back. But I think other than that, we're done, right?
I think so. I think so.
We got some homework for Michael.
What do you mean?
We
Oh,
were going,
homework from Michael. Yes, I thought you meant, I'm sorry, I heard it homework from Michael. I was like, wait,
no,
no more homework. But we do actually have to do some homework because we are not done. I am meeting with Taylor tomorrow and we will figure out the best way to get feedback without meeting, but we have to get through use tables. What's left? We have to get through use tables for everything, which maybe we could do as a shared doc and just get people's feedback so we can fairly quickly wrap it up on. We're gonna have a lot of, sorry, I'm so tired. We're gonna have the public hearing tomorrow, and I imagine we'll start hearing more feedback from people soon. We have not discussed the use tables for the rest of the districts that we discussed this evening. And then we are gonna have to revisit design guidelines, I'm assuming more than once. There are a few, you know, there are a few things, you know, what is the presentation Ken gave tonight change about things we've written in for sustainability? Probably not much, but I need to think about that stuff. And then there's all the pieces in between, which will be just reviewing the draft and calling out issues. So we've got some miles to cover, but we've got a lot done. I suggest that people review the use tables on their own and send suggestions for that, and let's see how that goes. And then I believe Taylor has posted the design guidelines question, list of suggestions from, we think, Morris Sullivan for us to review so that you have context for that discussion. The reason it's important to read it sooner than later is because it is an enormous gulf from what is drafted in North Main. So if we're going to start considering it, we need to read it over and decide where we want to meet in the middle on the two ways of approaching zoning for design. And then we are officially not meeting next until September. I'm going to get the day wrong, 3rd, right? And we will have petitions to review. So it's not quite all North Main. We have a public hearing on the 11th. And then we need to have our final vote for the warrant. I'm going to say probably by the September 16th or the morning of the 17th. The warrant doesn't close until the 22nd, but I will be out of town starting the 17th. So I'm hoping we can get it done by then. If we can't, we can't. I'll figure it out. But I'm hoping I leave with a clean slate. So go ahead.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, please.
It may not be welcome, but I'm available next week for meetings if we need to have them.
Why don't we, how much time can we, what's date? Tomorrow's Wednesday. Go
I
ahead,
can
John.
do next week. I am going to be out of town from like the 7th, that whole next, from the 7th to, I don't know,
So
13th to 15th.
does it sort of generally work for people to meet next week instead of an extra time in September? It sounds like.
I can meet next week.
Myself, I'm going to be out of town a bit in September.
A bit in September. I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't catch that.
I can meet next week. I'm out a bit in September here and there, but no Tuesdays as it turns out. So
Okay, September's sounding trickier than August, so we probably also, if we're running behind. Okay, let's tentatively plan, and we can cancel if we come up with an alternative way of doing it. Let's plan on meeting next Tuesday, the 27th.
if we could just for the use table, I feel like if we populated the East 1, West 1 uses into every place,
Yeah,
and then all looked at it and just said, are there any uses that we think shouldn't be allowed in W2, 3, and 4, or E2 and 3, or new uses that should be included? But default, it's just the same in East 1 and West 1. I think it'll just save a lot of time.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think we could probably do that as suggestions. Then we could compile a document that we could review pretty quickly in a meeting. Again, no discussion back and forth on documents that would violate public hearings, but if you can send your own version, we can do sort of a points of conflict sheet where we have differences of opinions and we can taper down, not reading every single line again. And then, so homework points are use tables, and then reading over what we have submitted. I will go out on a limb and guess that we will get lots of feedback, and this will be the most detailed feedback that we get. So, I would read over what we have suggested for the direction design guidelines could take, just in case it ends up being suggested as North Main zoning, and to make sure that we're okay writing our North Main zoning as we've started talking about, knowing that this is going to be proposed for 3A. Tentatively hold next Tuesday, and if we can think of an alternative, we will let you know. Anything else anyone wants to bring up or mention or say, or anything else? Concerns, dissenters. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
All right, roll call vote. Diab,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
I'm an I as well. Thank you, WinCam, for hanging in there with us. Thank you. I don't see our recording secretary. She wasn't here today. Thank you, anyone who's still watching, and thank you to the board, and thank you to Taylor. Good night.
Thanks all.